What's up, everyone? How are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto married a dragon? If you enjoy, then please like, share, and do comments. The day Itachi Uchiha was born, the bells in the town high tower rang for 12 hours straight. The bells ringing announced the birth of the sacred king of the future, the sole heir to the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan was a prestigious clan in Fire Country. They were considered to be one of the most feared and most powerful clans. They were known for their visual powers and ability to breathe fire. These abilities earned them the nickname the Dragons of the North. It was said that an Uchiha didn't have to lay a single finger on you to end your life. With a single look, they could kill you. They were the epitome of nobility, and everyone wanted to be a part of their powerful clan. But it wasn't that easy. The customs in Fire Country were set in stone. A person could only be a part of the clan they were born into. This was to keep the bloodlines of each clan as pure as possible. The only way for someone to become part of another clan was by an approved marriage by the emperor himself, and if the intended was from a completely different country, then both the emperors of the two different countries had to approve the union. This was how arranged marriages became such a popular practice. When a child with exceptional beauty and power was born, their parents immediately put in a bid to the emperor to seek permission to marry their child into the Uchiha clan. More than half of these bids usually were declined, but a very small percentage of them were occasionally passed. It was like winning the lottery. A child married into the Uchiha clan would be set for life. They would spend the rest of their days protected by some of the strongest warriors in the world, and in addition to that they would also give birth to Uchiha babies, making their offspring superior in every single way. Itachi Uchiha had been born into this twisted world, the heir to one of the most powerful clans to ever exist. He was the future ruler of the Uchiha clan, and everyone wanted a piece of him, no matter the price they had to pay. But all of their plotting, bidding, and scamming was utterly useless, for there was only one person Itachi Uchiha would marry, and he was all the way on the other side of world, not even born yet, just a twinkling speck in his father's eye. 15 years later. Sasuke walked through the crowded street village with his head held high. He was an Uchiha, and Uchihas always walked with their shoulders pulled back and their heads held high. It was to show confidence, is what his father had told him. Even though Sasuke was only 9, he walked with all the grace and pride of his father. With his big brother at his side, Sasuke felt invincible, like there was nothing anyone could say or do to him that would bother. He was untouchable. Sheesh. Sasuke called his elder brother by the nickname he had appointed him ever since he had been able to talk. "What is it?" the older Uchiha asked gently. "I heard father would be returning later on today. Do you want to come with me to welcome him?" Sasuke asked his brother excitedly. His brother made everything fun, even mundane things like welcoming their father home. "I'm sorry, Sasuke, but I have a lesson with Rimbu-san that I can't miss, and after that I promised Shisui that I'd accompany him on a hunt to find a silver kana he dropped on a mission last week." "You're always busy." Sasuke pouted. He hated when his brother didn't put him first. He wanted to be Itachi's #1 priority at all times. "Cancel on them and come with me." "You know I'd love to, but I can't, little brother. There's some responsibilities that I can't drop, even for you." Itachi smiled and kneeled down so that he was face level with Sasuke. "But if you're not too mad at me, later on tonight we can practice together. I'll even show you this new jutsu Rimbu-san showed me a few weeks ago." Itachi poked his brother's forehead. "Come on, stop pouting. I know you want to say yes." Itachi drew closer, then quickly picked his brother up. He threw Sasuke up into the air, then caught him. It was a habit they had with one another ever since Sasuke was a baby. Sasuke's anger slowly melted away. He let out a delighted giggle and nodded eagerly. "Fine, but it better be a super cool jutsu, okay?" "Of course, only the best for my beloved little brother." Itachi smiled. Later on that day, Sasuke found himself roaming aimlessly around the palace. He was beyond bored and was contemplating whether or not he should go outside and look for something fun to do, or if he should just wait a little longer until his father arrived so he could welcome him home. Sasuke sighed as he trudged up the marble steps. The palace was so big, and yet there was nothing fun to do. Without Itachi here, everything seemed useless and mundane. There was no color in Sasuke's world if his brother wasn't around. Everyone in the Uchiha palace knew of the young prince's strange fixation with the elder heir. It was also well known in the Uchiha clan that the youngest prince dearly loved his elder brother. Sasuke loved that everyone knew. It meant that no one would ever get the dumb idea to try and become Itachi's best friend because they would know that Itachi already had one, and that was him. Sasuke internally cheered for himself when he finally made it up the multiple marble steps. He looked up and greeted the towering, floor-length portrait of his father that hung on the wall right in the center of the double staircase. "Hello, father," Sasuke greeted playfully. "Hello, mother." Sasuke bowed to the equally large portrait of his mother that hung right beside the portrait of his father. "How has your day been? Mine's been long. I miss my shishi." Sasuke confessed. He bowed to the portraits, then skipped along. "What should I do?" Sasuke asked himself as he walked down the long expanse of the hallway. His father's office was right at the end of the hallway, but he was a whole hour early from when his father was supposed to arrive. He couldn't spend an entire hour just waiting for his father because that would be beyond pathetic. But even as Sasuke thought this, his legs still carried him forward to the gleaming double doors of his father's study. He was about to knock on the wooden surface when he realized that the door was slightly pushed open. Curiosity got the better of Sasuke, and he quickly ducked so he peek his eye into the study without being seen just in case someone was actually in there. Sasuke scrunched one eye closed and tried to see who was in the room. He wished he had the Sharingan like his brother so he could activate it and properly see, but this would have to do for now until he actually developed his family's genetic power. Sasuke suddenly heard a very deep, very familiar voice. It was his father, and as Sasuke craned his head higher he could make out a figure of another man seated across from his father. "Are you sure about this, Fugaku? I've heard some crazy things about the Uzumaki clan." "Yes, I'm absolutely certain they're as powerful as us. They sealed a 9-tailed wild beast within one of their women. They control wind in the palm of their hands. As if it is nothing, I'm absolutely sure that they are worthy." I know I've heard the stories. Their king can teleport in a blink of an eye, and all of their women bear sons and daughters who excel in some sort of jutsu. They're outstanding. But are you sure that you want to unite our clans this way?" Sasuke was unsure what his father was talking about. He had never heard about these Uzumaki people before. Sasuke strained his ear closer so he could hear more clearly. "Yes, Itachi is of age now, and I'm exhausted of receiving and rejecting all of the marriage bids he receives. The council has also begun to urge Mikoto and I to accept a bid so Itachi can produce an heir. It's time, and this clan is the one." "I don't know. There's so many to choose from. I heard the Hyuga clan submitted their precious heiress. Do you know how many clans would kill to have her as their son's wife? Maybe you should explore more options." "No, it has to be them. They didn't even put in a bid." "Didn't even put in a bid? Then why did you ask for consent from the emperor if you don't even know if they want to marry off their daughter to you?" "Because I know they will accept. They're just like any other clan in regards to that they want the best for their daughter, and we are the best. Why go through so much just for them? There are plenty other strong clans." "There's no one else like them, you see. The Uzumaki clan is a Senju clan. They are the only clan in the world who can compete with us. If we get their daughter and she has Itachi's child, then that child will be Uchiha and Senju. It will be the most powerful child in the world, and since it is their daughter who will bore that child, the child will be an Uchiha and not an Uzumaki. It'll be absolutely perfect. The next heir of the Uchiha clan will be the most powerful child in existence. It has to be them. Other clans are strong, but they don't possess the Senju blood we need to make my plan work." "You're a sneaky old man, but I can't complain. This sounds like a good plan. So it's settled then Itachi will finally be getting married, eh?" "Yes, in a few months' time. Itachi's betrothed will show up and everything will go according to plan." "Does Itachi know?" "Of course he does. I told months ago." Sasuke couldn't listen to any more. He ran away, down the long corridor, down the endless marble steps, and out into the open air. Sasuke walked through the dry flower bed by the palace's upper north wing. He had come here because it was somewhere he knew no one in his family would be at. He needed to be alone. His mind was racing a mile a minute. As he stalked across the garden, his black outdoor boots stomped on the red roses his mother so adored. He paid no mind to the defenseless flowers or the devastation he was havocing on the well-tended garden. His head was hung low, something that rarely happened since he knew Uchihas were supposed to always walk with their shoulders back and their head held up high. Sasuke had always taken this rule to heart. Ever since the age of 3 when his father had first taught the rule to him, he had made sure to walk in the correct manner, but at this particular moment he simply couldn't. He couldn't focus on anything because his mind was plagued with only one thing. Itachi was betrothed, and his future bride was supposed to be arriving in a few months' time. Sasuke didn't know why his brother marrying some stranger bothered him so much, but it did. Sasuke was angry and also worried, but most of all he was a little nervous about what would happen when this mystery girl arrived. Would Itachi stop playing with him altogether just so he could be with his new wife? Or what if this girl was mean? Sasuke knew many girls who wanted to marry his big brother and have his babies, but Itachi had never paid attention to any of them. He never thought he'd have to share his big brother with anyone. Sasuke frowned. He didn't want that. His big brother was the only person who actually paid attention to him in the whole palace. As Sasuke thought of his brother being taken away from him, an immense feeling of sadness overcame him. He wasn't used to this feeling, so he didn't understand why there was water trickling down his cheek until a few seconds later when he realized they were tears. "What are you doing out here all alone?" An annoying voice chimed from behind him. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. He held back the urge to hiss. He knew exactly who had spoken just from the voice alone. He wasn't in the mood to entertain any type of guests, especially not his annoying cousin. "What are you doing here, Gaara? Mother didn't inform me of your arrival." Sasuke sneered. He quickly wiped the lone tear under his eye away, then turned around to face the red head. His cousin was the prince and appointed heir of Sunagakur, the capital of Sand Country. Gaara had suffered from a disease as a child, which had left him frail and had also stunted his growth. He was older than Sasuke by 4 years, but was still the same height. Before Gaara's 10th birthday, everyone had thought without a doubt that he would be a submissive. But to everyone's amazement, Gaara had developed the half-moon mark on the inside of his palm that declared his dominant status. To make up for his small stature, Gaara's father always made him dress up in extremely extravagant garments so no one would undermine him. That's why Sasuke wasn't surprised by the long maroon silk blouse trimmed in gold that Gaara was wearing or the multiple gold bangles he wore around his pale arms and ankles. Even in this insufferable summer heat, Gaara was dressed in gold. As always, Sasuke thought the clothes were over the top. None of it was necessary. Even with Gaara's short stature, it was obvious that he was royalty. His teal eyes and flaming red hair were quintessential marks of royal blood in Sand Country. Anyone with eyes could see that Gaara was of nobility. It didn't matter that he looked like a submissive. "I'm in no mood to play with you today, so go away," Sasuke said coldly. "Oh, why? I came all the way from Suna just to see you." Gaara whined in a high-pitched, childish tone. His bangles glittered in the sunlight as he stomped his foot and folded his small arms over his chest. "I just spent 3 weeks on the road in a stuffy carriage. The least you can do is play with me." Gaara pouted, his cheeks puffed out, making him look even younger. "I didn't ask you to do that, nor did I invite you, so don't expect me to care. Now leave me alone," Sasuke shouted heatedly. "Actually, dear little cousin," Gaara's voice dropped a few octaves. The childish voice he reserved for when he was trying to act cute completely disappeared. He kept the same posture, but his entire demeanor changed. His new attitude made him look sinister, like he was plotting all the ways in which to murder you in his mind. This was the Gaara that Sasuke was used to, not that fragile whining one from seconds ago. "Your parents invited me." "Well, actually, Itachi unofficially invited me 6 months ago when he came to visit with your father. But your parents officially invited me along with the rest of my family 2 months ago." "Invited you for what?" Sasuke knew the answer deep down, but he didn't want to believe it because if it was true then that meant Gaara had known about Itachi's betrothal before him. "Duh, you dimwit, they invited me to Itachi's betrothal ceremony." Gaara's face split into a teasing grin, his teal eyes narrowed in amusement. "So, yes, you should care because I am your guest and also your cousin, so you should entertain me by playing with me." Gaara smirked. Sasuke knew by the slight crazed look in Gaara's eyes that it wasn't really a request but a demand. Gaara could be lethal when angered. His small and delicate appearance was so misleading it was comical. But Sasuke wasn't afraid of Gaara, so he didn't care. "I don't care if Itachi invited you or if my parents did. I didn't know about his betrothal until only a few minutes ago, so you can go have him entertain you if you're so bored." Sasuke shouted. He couldn't believe his fear had been confirmed. Itachi really had told Gaara first. This day couldn't get any worse. Not only was he going to lose his brother to some girl, but his brother had also kept this a secret from him and told someone else first. Sasuke withheld the urge to pout. Did this mean that Itachi and Gaara were close? No, if they were he would have noticed by now. "Oh, you barely found out." Gaara laughed. "That's strange, I thought you and Itachi were super close." "Yeah, well, I thought so too, but I guess not." This time Sasuke couldn't hold back his pout. He was just so devastated. If he didn't have Itachi, then what did he have? a stuffy old palace filled with boring maids and butlers. Don't pout, cousin, you still have me. Gaara pinched Sasuke's cheek. I'll be your new big brother, don't you worry. Gaara said animatedly. His words were sweet, but his eyes were glazed over as if he were imagining all of the evil things he could accomplish by becoming Sasuke's new brother. Being the heir to Sunagakure was nice, but if he were to become the heir to the Uchiha clan, the possibilities would be endless. The world's greatest army would be at his disposal. Don't put your filthy hands on me. Sasuke hissed. He slapped Gaara's hand away. You can fantasize all you want, but it'll never happen. Ow, that hurt, Gaara cried. He clutched his hand to his chest as if Sasuke had burned him. There's no need to assault me. I was just trying to cheer you up. Yeah, right, you probably love this. You were always jealous of Itachi. Correction, I was jealous of your relationship with Itachi. Sasuke knew this. It was a well-known fact that Gaara had two siblings but was treated as an only child. Gaara's sister was mothered by a lowly concubine who had committed suicide after giving birth to her. Gaara's brother was of legitimate birth but had been born with brown hair and brown eyes, which in Sand Country meant that he wasn't a true royal and was unworthy to become an heir to the throne. Because of this, Gaara's siblings were treated as nothing more than extra weight. In Gaara's father's eyes, he only had one true child, and that child was Gaara. Gaara had always been jealous of Itachi's relationship with Sasuke because it was something he could never have, a normal, loving sibling relationship. Sasuke would have pitied Gaara over this, but Gaara was not someone who could be easily pitied. He was too annoying for that. Whatever, and I would never want you for a brother. A commoner would make a better brother over you. Sasuke stuck out his tongue. Take that back, you little imp. Gaara bellowed. Sasuke smirked. He knew the commoner remark would anger Gaara. The royalty complex Gaara's father had grounded into him had made Gaara extremely delicate to topics like it. Never. I'll even say it again. A commoner would be a much moo-wooch brother than you. Yeah, well, Itachi likes me more than you. Gaara retaliated. A vicious grin bloomed across his face. After he gets married and I get married, we'll become even closer and you'll have to spend time all alone because we'll be too busy with our wives together. Sasuke saw red. He hurled his body at Gaara and tackled him to the floor. He straddled his cousin's lap and started punching before Gaara could realize what had happened and gain the upper hand. Don't punch you, punch ever, punch say, punch that, punch again. Sasuke heaved. He laughed as he saw blood erupt from Gaara's nose. It was as red as his hair. However, his mirth quickly drained and turned into dread when he saw a familiar figure looming over him. He slowly looked up and gulped. What is the meaning of this? Damn, Sasuke internally cursed. What was his mother doing here? He quickly hopped off of Gaara's body and bowed to his mother. I'm sorry, mother, this isn't what it seems. We were playing and things got out of control. Gaara, is this true? If my son is lying, please tell me so I can appropriately punish him. This isn't how a guest of an Uchiha should be treated. Sasuke anxiously watched as Gaara hobbled up into a sitting position. His red hair was caked in dirt and sticking up in random directions. There was a red bump that would most likely turn into a bruise tomorrow morning underneath Gaara's left eye, and his nose was gushing out blood. Sasuke winced. He hadn't realized he had been hitting Gaara that hard. He kind of felt a little bad now. Gaara's body was naturally weak, but Gaara knew how to fight. If Sasuke hadn't attacked so quickly, then Gaara could have easily gained the upper hand. Gaara had every right to sell him out to his mother, but he was silently hoping that his cousin would keep his mouth shut. Sasuke sent a prayer up to Kaguya. If Gaara said nothing, then he'd somehow make it up to his cousin later. Gaara slowly stood up. He brushed down his hair with his hand and dusted off his silk robe, then looked up to Mikoto while smirking. No, Your Highness, Sasuke is telling the truth. We were only playing. Sasuke's mouth popped open in shock. He quickly shut it closed before his mother could catch him. He couldn't believe Gaara had just done that. Oh, Mikoto's eyes widened slightly. She clearly hadn't expected that answer either. Very well then, she snapped her fingers and a maid appeared at her side. Gaara, this maid will escort you to the infirmary. After the doctor is done tending to your wounds, please take it easy for the rest of the day. I don't want your father to worry about you if you fall ill. Thank you. Gaara bowed, then followed the maid out of the garden, but not before shooting Sasuke an amused look, which Sasuke interpreted as Gaara telling him that this wasn't over. And you? The Uchiha matriarch turned to her youngest son as soon as Gaara was gone. You know of your cousin's delicate condition. I don't want you playing those type of games with him again, do you understand? Yes, Mom, Sasuke sighed. I've been looking for you, Mikoto admitted. Her anger left her small body in a single exhale. Her painted red lips tugged down into a frown. She looked worried or anxious. Sasuke couldn't decide which applied better. I have something I want to discuss with you. Sasuke's ears perked up at this. But not here, somewhere more private. Follow me. Sasuke nodded and wordlessly followed his mother like a little duckling following its mommy. Sasuke's mother had led him to one of the many terrums in the palace. There were so many that there were some terrums that Sasuke had never even seen with his own eyes before. The one he and his mother were currently seated in was scarcely decorated. There was a single Uchiha flag hanging on the painted red wall along with a portrait of his father. In the middle of the room was one low black lacquered oval table with an untouched tea set in the middle. The door was slid shut. As Sasuke looked around, he was absolutely certain that this was one of the terrums he hadn't been in. It was so underwhelmingly decorated. Maybe this was an unfinished room that had been abandoned midway, or maybe this was the maid's own personal terrum. Either way, the severe secrecy of where his mother had led him made Sasuke very, very nervous. Sasuke timidly glanced at his mother. A portion of her long black hair was pinned in an intricate braided bun on the top of her head, while the rest of it fell down her back. In the center of the bun was a gold dragon comb that had 2 rubies for eyes. It was the sacred animal of the Uchiha clan. It breathed fire just like the Uchiha people. The comb was a sacred family heirloom that his mother always wore. Sasuke could recall his mother once telling him that the comb was passed down to every Uchiha king's submissive after they gave birth to their first son. Sasuke knew his mother cherished it more than anything. His mother was wearing a plain summer kimono with only 3 layers. The bottom layer was a deep midnight black. The second layer was a light gray color and had a simple flower pattern on it, and the top layer was the standard color of the Uchiha clan, blood red. There were jewels on her hands and around her neck, and on her pale forehead was the tattooed insignia that every Uchiha king's bride bore, 3 blood red dots going down at an angle, the middle one being the lowest and the other 2 being slightly raised. It wasn't until now, as he sat there observing her, that Sasuke realized that his mother looked uncharacteristically apprehensive. There's no easy way for me to say this. Mikoto began in a grave voice. Her black eyes were settled straight ahead into her son's. You're young, and I know how much you love your brother, but things are going to change around here, Sasuke. So this was the reason for her hesitancy. Sasuke should have known. He had thought Itachi would be the one to tell him about the betrothal, but no, it was his mother. He couldn't help but be a little disappointed at it. Itachi had told Gaara, so why couldn't he tell him as well? What do you mean? Sasuke pretended to be surprised. His mother couldn't know he had been eavesdropping. Eavesdropping wasn't something Uchihas did. If they wanted to know something, then they didn't hide it. Your father has finally found a bride for your brother. Itachi is going to be married soon, and when his betrothed comes, I want you to be on your best behavior. You're going to have to share your brother, and I don't want you clinging to him when his bride arrives. The matriarch ordered. She was sweet and caring like every other mother, but she was also an Uchiha, and she didn't ask for things. She's demanded for them. Sasuke wasn't being given an option. His mother's words were law. His future bride will be arriving from Whirlpool Country in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Sasuke nearly screamed. His heart lurched in his chest. He had thought the girl would be arriving in a few months, not weeks. He needed more time so he could properly spend his last days with his brother before everything changed. Sasuke hadn't thought today could get any worse, but he was dead wrong. Apparently it could, and it just did. He swallowed away his surprise and plastered an indifferent expression on his face. Why so soon? Your brother's age has begun to concern the council. He's 15, almost 16. If we wait any longer with the ceremony, Itachi won't be married until he's 20. We need an heir long before then. The matriarch glared ahead. There was still so much that had to be done. Sasuke felt like he was going to vomit. The thought of his brother and this mystery girl doing that was too much to bear. He didn't want Itachi to marry anyone, and he sure as hell didn't want Itachi to do that with anyone else either. But his mother was right. As their father's successor, it was Itachi's birthright and duty to continue the royal Uchiha bloodline. You're so young, so I don't expect you to understand. All I want from you is for you to behave yourself. Mom, I'm always on my best behavior. I'm practically as boring as that boring pervert sensei of mine. Sasuke tried to smile, but it wobbled away before he could even pull his lips into any direction. His heart was sinking. He had known that someday his brother would get married, but he hadn't expected it to hurt this much. I know, but I just want you to behave like the young prince I've raised you to be. We need to make a lasting impression and solidify this betrothal. You're too young to understand what's at stake here, but it's extremely important for everything to go perfect, okay? Mom, my nanny raised me, not you, Sasuke corrected. The Uchiha matriarch gave a surprised look at this but said nothing, for they both knew Sasuke's words rung true. And besides, I'm 9, Mom, not 5. I perfectly understand that we have to be good so that these princesses' parents will like us enough to entrust their daughter to our family so that Itachi can impregnate her and continue on our family name. I'm not an idiot mother or a dumb little boy who knows nothing. I know more than you think. In a few years' time, I will also have a bride of my own, so don't treat me like a child. Yes, you too will have a betrothed just like your brother, but until then, Mikoto reached across the small expanse of the tea table, the long sleeves of her blood-red kimono fanned around Sasuke, engulfing the little prince. I am still your mother and you are still my child. She ran her pale hand through her son's raven locks. It was still as soft as a baby's. She smiled wistfully at this revelation. Her son could spout off like a grown-up all he wanted, but he was still a child, just for a little while longer. He was still a child. Now let's get going. We have to get lots of things ready before they arrive. Mikoto sang excitedly. We have to make everything look its best. The palace must be prepared. Mikoto dragged her son along as she listed all the things that still had to be done before Itachi's future bride came. Asterisk. I don't see how this is supposed to be fun. Sasuke growled. He was knee-deep in the garden pond. There were pink lotuses floating on top of the water, and little frogs and koi fish swam underneath and all around him. It would have been nice if it wasn't for the fact that he was being forced to be here. It's a game. Whoever catches a frog first is the winner. What's not fun about that? Gaara replied unbothered. He was sitting chest deep in the water. He lounged back with his face pointed up to the sun, enjoying the warm weather paired with the cooling water. He was in his own personal heaven. It's not fun because you're not even trying. I've already caught 6. Sasuke yelled. They had been outside for nearly a whole hour now. Gaara was used to the intense heat of the sun due to him being from Sunagakure, where every day of the year was like a hot summer day, but Sasuke wasn't used to it. His pale skin was sensitive to the heat. He was steadily turning red, and the longer he stayed out, the redder his skin turned. Stop complaining. You were the one who said you wanted to make it up to me for giving me this, remember? Gaara pointed with his eyes still closed at the black ring around his left eye. The bruise was a deep purple and red. Even though 4 days had passed since their fight, Gaara's black eye wasn't showing any signs of healing anytime soon. Sasuke frowned. Gaara was right. He did promise to make it up to him. Fine. Sasuke sighed as he plopped down into the shallow water and took a seat next to Gaara. Cheer up, cousin. Considering how hard you hit me, I'm letting you off easy. Enjoy the sun, smell the fresh air, be happy. Gaara smiled lazily. Not everyone has the luxury of sitting around on a sunny afternoon like we do. Some kids actually have to work for a living. I know, it's just hard to be happy lately. Sasuke admitted. In the last 4 days, Sasuke hadn't talked to his brother once. It was the longest period of time Sasuke had went without conversing with Itachi in a while. He was ignoring his brother, though, so there was nothing he could do about it. His stubbornness ultimately stopped him from ending the silence between his brother and himself. Are you still sulking about Itachi's betrothal? Gaara laughed. Why, it was bound to happen eventually. Shut up, you don't get it. He's my brother, not some dumb girls. Sasuke hissed. Gaara would never be able to understand. His non-existent relationship with his siblings disallowed him from being able to grasp how Sasuke was feeling. You sound jealous. Gaara laughed. His eyes were still blissfully closed as he soaked up the sun. You shouldn't be. This is an arranged marriage. In most arranged marriages, the two people don't even love each other. Just like my mom and dad, so don't worry about it. Your precious brother will still be yours. Sasuke blushed. He hadn't thought about it like that. It was moments like these when Gaara was uncharacteristically smart that Sasuke remembered that Gaara was actually older than him, and as a result knew much more things compared to him. Do you really think so? Sasuke asked in a quiet, hopeful voice. My dad was so unhappy in his first arranged marriage that he ended up cheating on her with a concubine, and whoops, Temari was born. Gaara said in a displeased tone. He rolled his shoulders forward and slowly opened up his eyes. He dragged his teal eyes away from the sky and down towards Sasuke. This girl that Itachi is going to marry is from a totally different country and probably doesn't even have the same customs or beliefs as him. She probably doesn't even speak the same language. How does anyone expect to fall in love with someone if they don't even speak the same language? Gaara sighed. You shouldn't be jealous. If anything, you should be happy because now your brother is probably nervous and will want to hang out with you even more to ease his nerves. Sasuke felt like he was going to explode with happiness. Gaara's words all made sense. He had been so stupid to act the way he had been. Of course, he was angry with Itachi for not telling him, and for telling Gaara first, but at least now he wasn't suffering from the horrendous anxiousness he had been plagued with ever since he overheard his father talking about Itachi's betrothal. He bolted up. The water sloshed around him as he jumped up excitedly. "I'll be back. I'm going to go talk my brother." Sasuke didn't wait for Gaara's reply. He ran out the water and made a beeline for where he knew his brother would be, the dojo practice room. Sasuke ran as fast as he could. His wet feet beating down on the palace's slippery floor slowed him down a little, but he pushed on until he made it to the familiar door of the dojo. He knocked once, then entered. "Young lord, what are you doing here?" Itachi's fighting instructor, Rimbu, a graying old man who had been a war hero back in the day, greeted Sasuke with a bow. "Where's my brother?" Sasuke asked quickly. He scanned his eyes across the dojo and frowned when he didn't see his brother. It was 3 o'clock, and Itachi always practiced during the afternoon. "He hasn't been here all week. His Highness has been studying every day instead of practicing." Rimbu explained as if it was common knowledge that Sasuke should have known. "Studying? Studying what? Itachi's a genius, he doesn't study." Sasuke growled. He didn't like not knowing things about his brother. "Ah, forgive me, I thought His Highness told you," Rimbu bowed in apology. "He has been studying with a tutor the language of his betrothed's mother country. He explained to me that he didn't want his bride to feel alone here when she came." Sasuke slammed his fist against the wall. It hurt so much, but the pain was nothing compared to the anger coursing through his body. "Young lord, what's wrong?" Sasuke bolted out the dojo. He wanted to be alone. Completely alone. He ran until he was in the North Garden. Gaara had been wrong. He was so dumb to listen to that stupid cousin of his. He wiped furiously at the tears sliding down his face. He wanted to hit something, anything. He ran to the bed of red roses he had stomped on a couple of days earlier and began to tear them out of the ground. "Stupid, Shishi!" Sasuke cried as he ripped the flowers from the dirt. "Stupid, stupid, stupid." "What are you doing, little brother?" Sasuke froze. His heart felt like an icicle in his chest. He didn't even want to turn around. He didn't have to because in the next second his brother had walked over and knelt down beside him. "Look at me," Itachi ordered quietly. He grabbed Sasuke's chin and forced his head up so that their eyes met. "Why are you crying?" "Did someone hurt you?" Itachi asked heatedly. His eyes turned blood red as he used his Sharingan to rove his eyes over Sasuke's small body to check for any wounds. Seconds later, his eyes bled back into black when he found nothing. "Answer me, what's wrong?" Sasuke held his breath. He wanted to hit his brother in his perfect face. He was so angry, but another part of him wanted to hug his brother and never let him go. He wanted to take Itachi in his arms and hold him until all of this talk of betrothals and girls from other countries was done with and never brought up again. "Sasuke, whatever it is that's wrong, you can tell me. I've noticed you've been ignoring me. Talk to me. What's bothering you?" Itachi leaned closer and Sasuke couldn't take it anymore. His lips loosened and he let out everything. "I don't want you to get married. You're my brother. I don't want a girl to take you away." Sasuke cried. He felt so weak. He knew Uchiha shouldn't cry shamelessly like this, but he couldn't hold it in any longer. He wrapped his arms around his brother and clung to him as he let all the emotions he had been hoarding inside himself. "Ah," Itachi said, finally understanding why his little brother had been acting so weird over the last 4 days. "There's no need for tears, little brother." "There's not?" Sasuke sniffled, confused. "Yes." Itachi pried Sasuke's body away and sat him down on his knee so he could look at Sasuke's face. He took the sleeve of his Hayori and wiped Sasuke's tears away. "Even if I get married, I'll still be your big brother." "No, you won't. You'll spend all your time with her and forget all about me." Sasuke cried with renewed vigor. "Stop crying, little brother. It saddens me greatly to see you like this." Itachi hugged his brother close. "I could never forget about you. I promise nothing will change. I'll still spend time with you." "You promise?" Sasuke looked up imploringly into his brother's eyes. "Yes, I promise." Itachi chuckled. "You swear it on Kaguya." "Yes, I swear it on the sacred mother herself. I will always make time for you." Itachi kissed his brother's cheek. "Now, is that why you were tearing Mother's poor garden apart?" "Yes. I was angry at you and I still am angry at you." Sasuke crossed his arms and looked away from his brother. "Why are you still angry at me?" Itachi prodded gently. Amusement colored his deep voice. "Because you told Gaara first. When were you planning on telling me? Why did Mom tell me and Gaara got a personal invitation first?" Itachi laughed merrily. His little brother was so adorably clingy he never wanted him to grow up. He poked his brother's forehead, then stood up, pulling his brother up with him. I never invited Gaara, father did, and I was going to tell you this weekend when we went into town to check out the new weapons on display in the market. Oh, Sasuke blushed. He suddenly felt stupid, like he had made a big deal out of nothing. I'm still mad. No matter what you say, I still don't want you to get married. I won't like her. She won't be good enough for you. Why do you need a bride? Why can't we just be together for a little longer? Hush, little brother. No matter what happens, you will always be my favorite person. I won't ask you to like her, but please can you promise me to at least try? No, Sasuke snapped. How could his brother ask him that? There was no way he could ever like this mystery girl. Please, Sasuke, for me. No. Your resistance makes me very sad, little brother, but very well. Sasuke frowned. He hadn't meant to make his brother sad. Can you at least promise me that you'll be nice to her? Sasuke begrudgingly nodded his head. He'd do it for his brother. Thank you. Itachi smiled. Now let's go get you cleaned up. If mother sees you wet and covered in dirt like this, she'll never let you play outside again. Sasuke nodded excitedly. He tightly held onto his brother's hand. He only had a few days left with his brother until Itachi's future bride arrived and took Itachi away from him, and Sasuke was going to spend every second until then with his most favorite person in the world. The day had finally come. Itachi's betrothed would be arriving today. Sasuke had been dreading this day for the past 2 weeks. He had promised his brother that he'd be on his best behavior and that he'd be nice to the mystery girl, but that had been a week ago, and now Sasuke wasn't so sure how well he'd be able to keep that promise. Sasuke had woken up early that day. He had to dress up in nice clothes and partake in the pre-ceremony where a priest would come to their home and bless Itachi and his family with good fortune so that the betrothal would go well. After that, Sasuke and the rest of the Uchiha royal family, along with Gaara and the other royals who had made the long journey for this momentous day, stood outside the palace front doors to await the carriage that would bring Itachi's future bride and her family. It was incredibly hot outside, and Sasuke was getting angrier and angrier by the second. He was dressed in all black, and the summer sun was boiling him alive. Every time he'd sneak a glance at his brother, he noticed a small smile on his brother's lips. It angered Sasuke even more. Gaara noticed his irritation and nudged him. Itachi looks excited to meet his new bride. Maybe you should get that stick out of your ass and be excited too. Gaara whispered teasingly. Shut up before I give you another black eye, Sabaku. Sasuke hissed back. He crossed his arms over his chest and looked off into the horizon. Any second now Itachi's bride would arrive. Sasuke didn't know much about Itachi's bride other than that she was from the Uzumaki clan in Whirlpool Country. He had learned from his sensei that Whirlpool Country was on the other side of the world in the far west. His mother had told him that the Uzumakis were the Uchihas of the west. They were incredibly strong and known for their sealing jutsus and wind power techniques. When Sasuke had eavesdropped on his father's conversation a couple weeks ago, he had said nothing but good things, which Sasuke assumed meant that they must have been an extremely powerful clan to garner his father's respect. Sasuke didn't care, though. This girl could have been the emperor's daughter, and she still wouldn't have been good enough for his big brother. 10 minutes later, a white carriage along with 2 other carriages that had Whirlpool flags hanging from them rolled to a stop in front of them. Everyone leaned forward, anticipating who would come out of the carriage first. She's late. Sasuke growled. He couldn't believe this stupid mystery girl had the audacity to make them wait. It just furthered Sasuke's dislike for her. Be calm, Sasuke reminded himself. For his brother's sake, he had to at least try to be positive and like this girl. But she was making it difficult for him, who shows up to their own betrothal ceremony late. She might have been a princess, but she had the manners of a commoner. From the corner of his eye, Sasuke saw his father nod to a group of servants who immediately ran up to the carriage to assist the royal family seated inside. But before the servants could open the carriage door, a red-headed little girl bursted out of it. Wow, it feels so good to be out of that stuffy carriage. The little girl stretched her arms up over her head. She was dressed in a short, light blue haori that was trimmed with brilliant gold fabric. The sleeves were long and went far past her hands. Sasuke found the black hakama she was wearing extremely odd. Most girls of royal blood, he knew, were forbidden to wear such things unless they were riding horses or doing other physical strenuous things. But then again, most royal submissive girls never partook in such dangerous things for fear that they'd get in an accident and damage their wombs. The odd girl's red hair was cut short and was tied up into a bun. Her messy bangs framed her face, and she had a small golden crown with a single blue sapphire in the middle on the top of her head. Sasuke was stunned. Was this Itachi's betrothed? This was the famed mystery girl he had been so worried about. Sasuke scoffed. Itachi deserved much better. "Karin, I told you not to exit first." A woman dressed in the most beautiful pale blue kimono Sasuke had ever seen said as she slowly climbed out of the carriage. Her heart-shaped face was framed by long red hair that was adorned with 2 strings of pearls and blue silk roses. Her waist was bound with a golden sash that had dozens of sewed and rising suns on it. The sash was long and went past the length of her kimono. It trailed behind her like a glorious shining train. Her eyes were a dull blue, which fascinated Sasuke because he had never seen such a vivid color before. Even Gaara's teal eyes didn't compare. There was a small blue circle that looked like a whirlpool on her kimono sleeve, which Sasuke guessed was the Uzumaki clan symbol. "Oh, come on, Mom, I was cramped. I needed to stretch." The girl, now known as Karin, whined. Her crimson eyes reminded Sasuke of the Sharingan, but less impressive. They were like a watered-down version. "I'm extremely sorry about this." The beautiful woman bowed partially. Her bound waist disallowed her from bending down any more than only a few centimeters. "I am Kushina Uzumaki, the queen of the Uzumaki clan and daughter of the Emperor of Whirlpool Country. This is my daughter, Karin." "Bow," Kushina ordered her daughter. Karin rolled her eyes but nevertheless bowed. "It is a pleasure to meet you all." Karin recited in a diplomatic tone, as if she had practiced saying the short sentence for hours. Sasuke was slightly amazed. Kushina was the daughter of the Emperor of Whirlpool. He didn't know how things were ranked in Whirlpool Country, but in Fire Country the Emperor was considered a king amongst kings, which meant Kushina was of pure royal blood. Sasuke sneered. This meant that Itachi's bride was even more royal than he had thought. "It's fine, we understand our Sasuke can be a little troublesome occasionally as well." Mikoto giggled. She was dressed in all red, the color of their clan. Her black hair was done up in a braided style and was decorated with the golden dragon hair comb she always wore. This time, however, her hairstylist had added strings of rubies to her braids so that her hair sparkled underneath the summer sun rays. Her red lips were stretched into a pleasant smile. Sasuke rolled his eyes at his mother's lie. He was never troublesome. "If I may ask, is this the young princess you intend to marry to my eldest son?" Mikoto smiled down at Karin. He could see the displeasure hidden deep within his mother's coal-black eyes. Good, Sasuke thought excitedly. If his mother was displeased, then maybe she'd call off this whole thing and he wouldn't have to share his brother after all. "Ah, no," Kushina laughed amused. Sasuke internally cursed. He hoped whoever the other girl was would also displease his mother as well. "My daughter Karin is a dominant," Kushina explained. She nudged her daughter, who then raised her hand and pulled back her long sleeves. There in the middle of Karin's palm was the half-moon mark that signified her dominant status. "She is the future heir to the Uzumaki clan. She will never be married into another clan." This explained Karin's boyish hairstyle and attire. Now that Sasuke looked more closely at her, her build was semi-muscular. In a few years, he could imagine her on a throne ruling a kingdom. She was the granddaughter of an emperor, which meant she had genetically inherited the wit and wisdom of a ruler. Sasuke grimaced. He couldn't believe that one day this girl would have a higher title than him. Itachi's intended will come out in a few seconds. His father wanted to have a few last words with him before stepping out. Kushina explained apologetically. She smiled sweetly to the crowd. They all nodded in understanding. Most of them were distracted by the sheer beauty of her entire appearance. It was clear that she was foreign. Not only was her appearance different, but the way she talked, the way both she and her daughter spoke, was different as well. It was like they had a slight accent and everyone just wanted to rush to the woman and ask her to speak her true language so they could hear it. Sasuke gaped. His father did that mean? Itachi's betrothed was a boy. Had no one else heard that? Everyone was so entranced by this woman that they weren't even listening to her words. "It's no problem, we completely understand," Fugaku said stoically. Sasuke didn't understand why no one was freaking out. Had no one really not heard what that woman had just said? He shot a glance at Itachi to see if his brother was also freaking out. Nope, to his extreme displeasure, Itachi looked just as eager as earlier. His eyes were glued to the carriage door as if any second his future bride would step out and he didn't want to miss it when she did. "Did you hear what she just said, or am I going crazy?" Sasuke murmured urgently to Gaara. "What are you referring to?" Gaara smirked. The part about Itachi's bride being a boy or the part about her daughter being a dominant, both were surprising. Obviously Itachi's bride. Sasuke whispered back. Before Gaara could answer, the carriage door swung open again. Sasuke snapped his eyes up, ready to see the face of his brother's future bride, but instead out stepped a blonde-headed man. It was obvious that he was a king by the grand gold crown on his head. He was dressed simple for someone with such a high status. A royal blue haori and a simple pair of black hakama. "Good afternoon, I am Minato, the king of the Uzumaki clan." As he introduced himself, a slew of what Sasuke presumed to be servants along with a few guards stepped out of the two carriages behind the white one that Karin and Kushina and Minato had exited out of. 4 servants and guards kneeled at the feet of their king, while 2 other servants stood at either end of the white carriage door. "I am finally ready to present to you my son." The 2 servants located on the sides of the carriage door immediately opened it. There was a moment of silence as everyone waited expectantly. The tension was palpable. Everyone wanted to see this mysterious person who would become Itachi's bride. After declining so many marriage bids, their sacred heir was finally going to have a bride. This person would become the new queen and future mother of the next heir. Sasuke held his breath. It was like everything was happening in slow motion. Sasuke didn't know what he expected, but he certainly wasn't expecting this type of beauty. The boy, Sasuke wasn't even sure if it was a boy, was too beautiful for words. He had bright blue eyes, even brighter than Kushina's. The color didn't even look real. It was like someone had taken a piece of the sky and had liquefied it down and then poured it into the boy's eyes like 2 sapphire stones. The boy's face was heart-shaped just like his mother's, and his lips were plump and pink. His pink cheeks were slightly chubby and had 3 marks going across each of them. The boy had a blinding head of bright blonde hair. His hair hung loose down his back, like spun gold glittering in the sunlight. Half of his hair was tied up into a bun, which had a jade comb in it. The comb had a string of pearls and flowers dangling from it along with a single sapphire in the center of it. The boy was also wearing a pale blue kimono like his mother, except this one wasn't bound at the waist, but instead was tight at the chest area, then billowed out stiffly underneath him. The kimono was also much shorter, and the sleeves were also long like Karin's. "May I present to you my son, Naruto Uzumaki, Itachi Uchiha's betrothed." No one said anything for a few seconds. They were too enchanted by the sheer beauty of the little sun god standing before them. But then suddenly Itachi bowed. Sasuke was stunned, speechless. It wasn't a normal bow that he usually saw his brother giving his father. This bow was one Sasuke had never seen his brother do. Itachi had dropped to the ground on both his knees and bowed his head until his lips were centimeters above the ground. Immediately the rest of the crowd followed along. Sasuke reluctantly bowed as well. However, Sasuke noticed that no one had bowed lower than Itachi. When they all raised their heads, Sasuke turned to his cousin. "Why did Itachi bow like that?" Sasuke whispered. "Are you an idiot?" Gaara said in amazement. "He bowed like that because he's showing the ultimate sign of respect to the future mother of his children. Haven't you ever gone to a betrothal before? Your family must get invited to like 1,000,000,000 of them." Sasuke's heart dropped. He should have never asked. He glanced back at his brother, who was looking at Naruto as if Naruto was the sun itself, like he was his whole world. Sasuke felt a pinprick of a tear at the corner of his eye, but he refused to let it fall. Itachi had promised nothing would change. Minato grabbed his son's hand. "Let's move this party inside, shall we? We have much to discuss." Sasuke's fathers nodded in approval, and everyone shuffled into the grand Uchiha palace, eager to be in the Uzumaki's warm presence. Asterisk. Sasuke couldn't take his eyes off of Naruto, and neither could anyone else. They were seated around the dining table. All the guests had left a few hours ago, and now it was just the Uchiha and Uzumaki family. The betrothal contract had been signed, and everyone had celebrated. Many of the guests had been reluctant to leave. They wanted to know more about the Uzumaki family and the strange country they had come from, but Mikoto had convinced them to leave by reminding them that they'd get another chance to speak to the Uzumakis when the actual wedding took place. Now it was time for the 2 joining families to get to know each other better. Fugaku had ordered a grand feast in celebration of the betrothal contract being signed, and now they were all seated, enjoying a dinner that Sasuke wanted very much to not be a part of. Sasuke had thought that after the signing of the contract, the Uzumakis would leave, but no, they were still here making his life miserable. Sasuke glanced across the table where Itachi was seated next to Naruto. He wanted to take his fork and jam it through Naruto's pretty blue eyes. He couldn't stand another second of having to look at Naruto's face, or the way his brother kept looking at Naruto. Sasuke understood why his brother kept looking at Naruto the way he was. Naruto was the definition of beautiful. His eyes froze you every time he looked at you, and his smile made you feel warm inside, but still, Sasuke hated it. "How old are you again, Naruto?" Mikoto asked curiously as she eyed the boy's chubby cheeks and childish features. She had noticed how small he was when he had taken off his vinyl zari. He was even smaller than his sister, who stood a whole head taller than him. "Ah," Naruto froze. His blue eyes widened as if he didn't know how to reply. He looked down at his hands as he tried to think. She asked how old you are. Itachi translated into Naruto's language. Sasuke fumed. He had no idea what his brother just said, but he assumed it was a translation of what his mother had said. His brother really had been studying Naruto's language. For some reason it irked Sasuke. "Oh," Naruto smiled, then thanked Itachi by bowing, his plump-scarred cheeks colored to a rosy red. "I'm 10. Naruto answered with a thick accent. His accent was more prominent than his sister's. Sasuke attributed it to Karin being older. "Oh, that's lovely. You're only a year older than my Sasuke." Mikoto gushed. "Maybe you two can be good friends." "Yeah, in your dreams, Mom. I'd rather die than be friends with him." Sasuke thought bitterly. His mother was stupid if she thought he'd ever be friends with Naruto. That was like asking him to befriend someone from the Haruno clan. They were mortal enemies. It was never going to happen. Naruto blushed, then inclined his head towards Itachi. Itachi chuckled. He instantly understood what Naruto wanted. He translated what his mother had said with a smile. Sasuke frowned as he watched the interaction between his brother and the annoying blonde. He had noticed two things about Naruto. One, Naruto hadn't looked his brother in the eyes once since he had been here. And two, Naruto blushed ridiculously easily. It sickened him. He knew Naruto was a submissive, but he had never actually met someone who acted so submissive before. Even his mother occasionally acted borderline dominant. He had learned from his sensei that submissives only displayed dominant tendencies when they bore children or felt territorial, but Sasuke didn't care. He hated Naruto's entire existence. "I'd like that very much." Naruto replied cheerfully. He locked his blue eyes directly on Sasuke's black ones. "I'd like to be friends with everyone Itachi-san holds dear." Naruto smiled until his eyes formed identical twin crescents. His heavy accent made his words sound like a 6-year-old child speaking. Sasuke didn't know why, but he blushed. Naruto was just too much. Was it an act? There was no way anyone could be this sweet and cheerful. It was borderline idiotic, but a small part of Sasuke liked it. Naruto was like a child, and something foreign inside of him was telling him to take care of Naruto. Protect him and make sure he's safe. That was the feeling he kept getting, but he didn't know why he got that feeling because he hated Naruto. "That's lovely. Sasuke is such a mischievous boy, he could use another big brother around here." Miko gushed. "I'll be 10 next month, Mom, and besides, I don't need another older brother. One is enough." Sasuke growled. He was trying to remain calm, but he knew he had failed when he saw the warning look to behave himself in his mother's eyes. The atmosphere quickly turned tense. Naruto looked back and forth between Sasuke and his mother, unaware of what was happening. Sensing the silent tension, Kushina decided to change the topic. "I was told by an old friend of mine that when a royal Uchiha is born, a bell could be heard ringing for hours. Is this true?" She clasped her hands delightfully as she glanced expectantly at Mikoto. "Ah, yes, it's true." Mikoto dragged her eyes away from her son and looked at Kushina cheerfully. "The bell rings for 12 straight hours to signify every single month of the year. This only happens if the Uchiha is a royal male. If it's a female, then the bell rings for 9 hours to signify the 9 months of pregnancy she will have to endure in the future for the sake of the clan. What if the male turns out to be a submissive, or if the girl is a dominant?" Karin interjected suddenly. Her demeanor was demanding, like the dominant that she was. She didn't hide the fact that she had just been offended. "This custom is centuries old. No one thought of such things back then, my dear, but you're right." Mikoto laughed. "But to be honest, if a royal male Uchiha turns out to be a submissive, he's forbidden to ever bear children. And if it's a female, and if she turns out to be dominant, then she's obligated to bear children for our clan." What a sickening custom. Karin snarled. Her crimson eyes seemed to turn into a bloody red color as she slowly rose from her seat. "Karin, enough!" Minato commanded. It was like he had said this exact sentence thousands of times before. Karin growled. She said something heatedly to her father in her mother language. They exchanged a few more foreign heated words before finally Karin grudgingly sat back down. "I apologize for my rude outburst. I will reflect on my actions. Please look kindly upon me, for I am only learning and growing." Karin said in a bitter tone. Her apology was very obviously forced. Sasuke watched the exchange in amazement. He had never seen a girl act like this before, mainly because dominant females were all but mythical in the Uchiha clan. Most were forced to be submissive, while others hid away their true status in fear of being ostracized. But seeing Karin mouth off to her dominant father the way she was, then totally be unapologetic about it afterwards. Sasuke only had one thought: dominant females were a sight to behold. Terrifying was probably the best word to describe it. He didn't know how Karin and Naruto were related when she was so ferocious, and Naruto was so timid. Sasuke quickly glanced at Naruto to see his reaction, and was surprised to see that there was a ghost of a smile flirting across his plump lips. Had Naruto understood what his mother had just said? Or was Naruto just amused by Karin's behavior? Once again, he found himself wondering if Naruto was just putting on an act. Sasuke vowed to himself that by the end of the night he would find out if Naruto was acting or not. "It's fine, my dear. You're just lucky you were speaking to me and not my husband." Mikoto laughed. No one else joined her. It was clear that it was a warning. "Either way, the bell ringing is a delightful custom." The red-head queen clasped her hands as she smiled brightly. Sasuke was beginning to understand that Kushina didn't like confrontation, or was it that she was just above it and didn't pay it any mind? The longer Sasuke observed the Uzumakis, the more interesting he found them. They were all so different than what he was used to. "Yes, it is." Mikoto smiled back. "If Naru-chan fulfills our wishes and gives our son an heir, then we will also ring the bells for his child as well." Sasuke's mood instantly soured. Why did his mother have to remind him of that? He didn't want to think about that, ever. Just when he was starting to calm down, he was back to being angry again. "Please, let's not speak of children bearing so soon. I don't want to think of such a thing when my little princess is still only a child." Minato interjected with a grimace. Sasuke could have kissed the man. It was like he had read his thoughts. "Oh, I'm so sorry." Mikoto bowed apologetically. "You're right, I got too excited and forgot that Naru-chan is only 10. Mikoto smiled sadly. "I just can't wait for my Itachi to finally be a father." Mikoto confessed weakly. She smiled wistfully at her son. Mikoto had grown tired of seeing her husband reject marriage bid after marriage bid after marriage bid. Finally, her son was going to be able to have a happy family of his own. "It's fine, my husband is a bit sensitive over all of this. He's especially close to Naruto and dotes on him, so I hope you understand how hard all of this is for him." Kushina confessed as well. "Enough with this," Fugaku suddenly bellowed. From the look in his eyes, Sasuke could tell his father was annoyed. "Let us retire for the night. I'm sure you're exhausted from your journey, Lord Uzumaki. Let's continue this conversation when the sun is new and we have fresh minds to think properly." "Very well." Minato agreed. After that, a maid came and cleared the table, and a butler escorted the Uzumaki family to their rooms. Later that night, Sasuke couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned with thoughts that were centered solely on Naruto. It annoyed him greatly that he couldn't get the blonde bimbo out of his head. He decided that the only way he'd be able to calm his restless mind was to go to the source of his problems directly and confront him. Now, Sasuke knew sneaking out of his bedroom this late into the night was a very, very naughty and dumb thing to do. If any of the maids or butlers saw him, they could report him to his parents, who would immediately hand him some form of punishment. But it was worth it. So with a quick prayer to Kaguya, Sasuke sneaked out of his room and tiptoed into the hall. He didn't really know where Naruto was staying at. There were so many rooms in the palace that there were many that Sasuke had never been inside of. But he was fiercely determined to find the blonde idiot. So Sasuke set his negativity aside and began his search. He first checked the north wing. That's where most of the maids' chambers were. That was also where his favorite garden was at, the one he had destroyed in his hour of anger a few weeks ago. When he found nothing in the north wing, Sasuke checked the east wing. The east wing was mostly terrums, but these tea rooms were the extravagant ones where his mother entertained her friends on Friday nights, and where his father brought his buddies and courtesans to so they could drink soju and laugh together. Sasuke usually wasn't allowed in them unless he was with Itachi. After checking all of the terrums, Sasuke made his way to the south wing. The south wing was different than every other part of the palace because it was where the kitchen and dining room was located. Most of the rooms around the south wing were used for food storage and other boring things that Sasuke had never bothered to wonder about. It took Sasuke a very long time to check every room in the south wing. It seemed these rooms were bigger than all the others he had checked so far. Sasuke blamed it on all the furniture and appliances that he had to check behind. There were so many, and the rooms were so endless that by the time he was done checking all the rooms, Sasuke was exhausted. He had never stayed up this late before. He still had the east wing to check, which he really didn't want to, but Sasuke forced himself to. He had already come this far, and he wasn't going to give up now when he only had one section of the palace to check left. He started in one of his mother's upstairs powder rooms. There were gold mirrors and satin everywhere. His mother liked to get ready here. She had silk cushions all along the floor so she could lay wherever her heart desired, and a silver bathtub so she could bathe before she got ready. The multitude of pillows called to Sasuke. They looked so plump and inviting that Sasuke just wanted to lay his head upon one and close his eyes and go to sleep. He slapped his cheek and continued his search. He could sleep later. Right now he had to find that blonde idiot. There were jewels scattered across one of the golden vanity tops. Sasuke shook his head in disbelief. Did his mother really just leave priceless items like this out in the open all the time? As Sasuke walked deeper into the room, the red billowy curtains at the end of the stuffy room caught his attention. As far as he knew, all of the palace's windows were supposed to be shut by the time his father retired to bed. It was an unspoken rule. So then why was this particular window open? Sasuke's heart hammered in his chest as he tiptoed closer. What if the window was open not because of Naruto, but because of some thief that had snuck in? What if Sasuke pulled back the curtain and a robber was waiting there and snatched him away? He was a prince. A robber could probably get a pretty hefty ransom out of him. Sasuke pushed his fear aside. He couldn't think weakly like that. He wasn't a submissive. He took a deep breath, then pulled the curtain back. There was no one. He looked around as the moonlight shone through. The summer night air felt good on his cheeks. He wished it could be this cool in the daytime as well. As Sasuke basked in the summer night wind, the sound of water splashing caught his interest. He immediately looked down to locate where the splash had come from. He held his breath as he located exactly what had made the noise. Down in the pond, Naruto and Karin were splashing around. Naruto's bright blonde hair and Karin's head of fiery red hair were easy to identify. Sasuke crouched down and hid himself so he wouldn't be seen. What were they doing outside this late at night? Sasuke was burning with curiosity. Before Sasuke realized what was happening, he found himself outside, crouched behind a bush, spying on Naruto and Karin. He watched Karin lay on her back as she floated in the pond, her short red hair pooled around her like a floating halo. Just as he had thought, she was muscular. He looked over to Naruto and immediately looked away. Naruto was dressed in a simple white juban. As he stood up from the water, the delicate material had clung to his body. Thankfully, Naruto's long hair had covered anything that Sasuke shouldn't have seen. Since Naruto was Itachi's bride, he wasn't allowed to see any part of Naruto that his brother hadn't allowed him to see. Even though he hated Naruto, tradition was still tradition. Sasuke's heart was beating so fast he felt like he was going to throw up. Maybe this hadn't been such a good idea. He should just go back to bed and confront the blonde annoyance tomorrow when Naruto was fully dressed. Sasuke began to rise so he could scurry back to bed, but then Naruto suddenly screamed. Sasuke whipped his head around. That feeling that told him to protect Naruto was back again. It felt like an instinct, and once again it baffled Sasuke. He looked over to where Naruto was and saw Naruto on his butt sitting in the water and Karin looking over him with a wicked grin on her face. "I said go find me something to eat." Karin hissed down at her baby brother. Her crimson eyes were that same color of watery red like they were at the dining table earlier that night when she had gotten angry. But it's late. You said if we got caught we'd get in trouble. I didn't even want to swim with you." Naruto blubbered. "I don't care. I said I'm hungry, so go get me something to eat before I lose my patience." Karin crouched down and pulled Naruto up by the chest fabric of his juban. "Or do I have to repeat myself?" Sasuke had no idea what Karin or what Naruto was saying since they were speaking their mother language. But by their body language, Sasuke knew without a shadow of a doubt that Karin was bullying her baby brother. Was this the reason Naruto had smiled at dinner earlier when Karin had been scolded by her father? Did Naruto and Karin not get along? Yes, it was clear that they didn't as he watched Karin terrorize her brother. Karin held Naruto up high, his little feet dangled in the air. Her muscles strained in the silver moonlight as she held Naruto up higher and then threw him into the water. Naruto cried out in pain and tried to scurry away from his sister, but she grabbed his leg and dragged him back. "Don't act like such a damn princess. You're a boy, aren't you? Fight back. Daddy's not here to protect you." Karin hissed. She grabbed Naruto by his long hair and dragged him down into the water and then back up. If you don't do as I say, I'll drown you. No, please stop, I can't breathe. Naruto cried. There were tears rolling down his red cheeks, and he looked like he'd pass out at any second. Sasuke knew he should have loved this. How many times had he said he hated Naruto? How much had he wished to harm Naruto himself? But this, seeing it with own eyes, Sasuke realized he didn't want that at all. That feeling was ringing in his ears now. It rang over and over again, urging him to go protect Naruto. Sasuke didn't know what to do. There was an intense desire inside him that wanted nothing more than to protect Naruto, but there was also the mental rational part that was telling him that it was impossible. Karin was much stronger than him. She was the embodiment of strength as she flung her brother around. How could Sasuke beat a beast like her? A light bulb went off in Sasuke's head. There was one way he could beat Karin, but it all depended on how gullible Karin was and if he could tell a lie with a straight face. He stepped out from behind the bush and revealed himself. He cleared his throat loudly and waited for Karin to notice his presence. "Oh, if it isn't the baby prince." Karin sneered. "What are you doing out of bed this late at night? Did someone have a nightmare?" Karin teased. Sasuke refused to react. He had to play this right if he was going to win. "No, I heard some yelling, so I came to see what all the fuss was. I didn't expect it to be you." "Well, surprise," Karin laughed, then suddenly turned serious. "Now that you know it's us, scram. As you can see, I'm busy." Karin pulled harder on Naruto's hair, which made Naruto whine loudly. Sasuke refused to look at Naruto. He told himself it was because he had no permission to look at Naruto in his current state of dress without his brother's permission, but he knew it was actually because he couldn't stand seeing Naruto in so much pain. He took a steady breath and took a step closer. "Yes, I see that, but I must ask you to break up this little party." Sasuke reminded himself to be confident. That was the only way his plan would work. And why would I ever do that? Karin pulled Naruto's head up so that she could press her cheek against her brother's. "Me and Naru-chan are having lots of fun out here." "Well, if you insist, but don't say I didn't warn you. The leeches in the pond are poisonous, so if you both die, don't blame me." Sasuke tusked, then slowly began to walk away. Just as he had hoped, he heard Karin scream, then hop out of the water. "Leeches!" Karin yelled. She looked frantically all over her body, then ran into the palace like a monstrous animal was chasing her. Sasuke laughed. He couldn't believe that it actually worked. He knew Karin would run away and abandon her brother because she clearly didn't care about his well-being, and he knew Naruto wouldn't run away because he wouldn't understand a word he said. Sasuke felt like a mastermind. He had never had a plan actually work out that well. His celebratory mood faded away when he saw Naruto wobble out of the pond. He quickly averted his eyes and looked down. Naruto's juban was wet and white and thus completely see-through. But even as Sasuke looked down, he could still see Naruto's chubby thighs and legs as his juban clung to them. He blushed and silently took off his silk night robe and wordlessly handed it to Naruto, who thankfully took it and covered his wet body with it. "Thank you, Sasuke-san," Naruto said in a teary voice. His accent was even heavier than it was at dinner, but Sasuke could still decipher what Naruto had said. "You shouldn't let her pick on you like that." Sasuke replied back. He didn't know why he felt so awkward, but he did. He hated Naruto, but he also found Naruto somewhat precious. He was so innocent. Sasuke found it endearing. He looked up and admired how Naruto's golden wet hair looked in the moonlight. It was long, but not as long as Kushina's. It lay to the middle of his arms and was silky straight. Sasuke had the urge to run his fingers through it just to see if it felt like the spun gold that it resembled. "Please don't tell Itachi-san," Naruto said shakily. His shoulders trembled as a chilly gust of wind passed by. "I don't want Itachi-san to know." Just like that, the spell was broken. Sasuke felt the anger reignite in his stomach. Just the mention of his brother's name coming from Naruto's lips irritated him. He wanted to push Naruto back into the water and let him drown, but that annoying feeling wouldn't let him. So instead, he decided to verbally hurt Naru. "Don't talk about my brother in front of me. You understand? He's my brother. He will never love you how he loves me. You will never be my family. You're so annoying. I hate you. Just go back to your country already." Sasuke hissed, then walked away. He didn't know if Naruto understood anything he had said, but he didn't care. He set out earlier that night with one mission, and that was to tell Naruto how he felt, and now that he had achieved that, he was going to bed. As Sasuke stomped angrily up the stairs to his bedroom, he felt like the worst person in the entire world. This night had been a total bust. He should have just stayed in bed and slept the night away. Now he was feeling guilty and more confused than ever. At least Sasuke was certain about one thing: Naruto's kindness was 100% genuine, and that killed him. Asterisk. The following morning, Sasuke didn't want to get out of bed. He felt like dying. He didn't want to deal with Naruto or any of the emotions that came along with dealing with Naruto. He felt horrible about what had happened last night, but he couldn't tell anyone about it because he wasn't supposed to be out that late at night, and especially not out with his brother's future bride. So, sadly, Sasuke had to suffer in silence. After he had been dressed by a maid, eaten a quick breakfast, prayed at the shrine, and suffered through a lesson with his perverted sensei, Sasuke had been escorted to one of the many terrums in the palace. He had an inkling about why he had been summoned there, but he didn't want to dwell on it, so with a brave face, he silently followed the butler to the terrum. The moment he walked into the terrum, Sasuke's suspicions were confirmed. His father, mother, and brother were all seated inside. The sight of all three of them looking at him made Sasuke nervous. He quickened his step and took a seat next to his brother, as he always did. "No, sweetie, that's where Naru-chan will be sitting. Come have a seat next to Mommy." Mikoto patted the empty satin cushion next to her. Sasuke frowned but did as he was told. If this had happened yesterday, Sasuke would have been furious over the fact that Naruto was literally taking his place next to Itachi, but after last night, Sasuke just wanted to not think about anything. He got up and silently took a seat next to his mother. "You need to stop babying him like that, Mikoto. He's a man, not a child. You sound just as bad as that Uzumaki calling his son a princess." "Oh, but darling, Sasuke is my baby. I only have one more month to call him that before he turns on me, so let me have this fun before it ends." Mikoto had no intention of listening to her husband. She knew her husband well and knew he was only complaining because he was frustrated about being kept waiting. "Where are they?" "I told them to meet us in the terrum at exactly 1 in the afternoon." Fugaku growled. He was a man of very little patience. "It's nearly 15 after." Sasuke ignored his parents and looked around the room. He had been in this terrum before. It was a year ago in the winter when Itachi had brought him here so they could eat cherry dango while they slurped on tea. This was Itachi's favorite terrum. He remembered because the walls were a pitch black instead of red. There was also no portrait of their father hung in here, only an Uchiha flag along with other painted works of art. Compared to some of the tea rooms Sasuke had searched through yesterday, this one was less extravagant. He knew without a doubt that Itachi had chosen this location to meet. That's what Sasuke loved about his brother. Itachi was simple and loving. He didn't like to flaunt his wealth or knowledge. He was silent about everything. Even the outfit his brother was wearing right now was underwhelming, a simple black hakama and matching black haori. His brother's long black hair was tied in its signature low ponytail, and his eyes were closed as he waited patiently. Sasuke loved everything about his brother. He was the polar opposite of their father. Sasuke often thought that his father was blessed to have a son like Itachi. He had told his perverted sensei once that his father didn't deserve a son like Itachi, but his sensei had made him promise to never say it ever again. Sasuke had promised, but he still oftentimes thought it. The black door suddenly slid open, and Sasuke's thoughts scattered. He looked up, but then immediately looked back down as he saw the familiar faces of the Uzumaki family. He wasn't ready to face Naruto just yet. "We were starting to think you got lost." Mikoto joked cheerfully as she bowed in greeting. "Ah, forgive us, we had a little incident." Kushina apologized as she glared at her stone-faced daughter, then sat down. Her husband sat on the other end of the table across from Fugaku. Naruto slid into the empty cushion beside Itachi, and Karin sat next to Sasuke. Sasuke involuntarily shivered as he recalled the events of last night. The way Karin's muscle glistened in the moonlight as she lifted Naruto up was a sight he'd never forget. Sasuke shuddered. Karin was too strong for her own good. "Well, I'm happy it's settled." Itachi was eager to see Naruto. Mikoto chorused as she snapped her fingers at a maid who quickly filled her empty teacup. Sasuke reluctantly glanced up. He couldn't help it. There was that urge ringing inside of him again. He had to look at Naruto just to see if he was okay. He was stunned by how beautiful Naruto looked. Naruto was dressed in a black silk common kimono that had little white and gray koi fishes patterned all over it. The obi was a deep red and was tied around with a golden yellow threaded rope, and the juban collar underneath was starch white. This time, Naruto's long hair was all completely swept up into a high ponytail that fell loosely down his back. A single jade hairpin that had a black flower diamond in the center of it held his bangs back. Naruto was simply adorable. Naruto was also eager to see you, Itachi. He heard black was your favorite color, so he requested to wear black today just for you. Kushina explained for her son. Naruto's cheeks blazed red as everyone's eyes suddenly landed on him. Sasuke didn't know why, but he felt jealous, but not over his brother, but over Naruto. He had been the one to save Naruto last night, so shouldn't have Naruto wore his favorite color as a thanks instead, and not Itachi's. Sasuke pouted, then again he had said all those horrible things to Naruto. Naruto didn't owe him anything. You look beautiful, Itachi said quietly to Naruto, who immediately blushed at the compliment. He kept his eyes lowered but bowed in thanks. Thank you, Itachi-san. I'll wear black every day if it pleases you. Sasuke didn't know what the hell Naruto and Itachi were saying to each other, but Naruto was blushing and his brother looked oddly pleased. He glanced at Kushina and saw an adoring smile on her face. Sasuke then glanced at Minato and had to take a second look. Minato was glaring at Itachi. Sasuke stifled a laugh. Poor Minato. His princess was interacting with his future husband right before his eyes, and he could do nothing about it. You can wear any color you want, with eyes as blue as yours and hair as gold. Anything you wear will be beautiful. This time when Itachi had finished speaking, Naruto's entire face had turned a deadly shade of red. Sasuke couldn't hold it back this time. Whatever Itachi had said must have been too much for Naruto to handle. He laughed loudly. Sasuke, mind your manners. Mikoto commanded her son. Sorry, Sasuke grinned. He looked on and admired Naruto's nervousness. It was disgustingly adorable. Wait, adorable. Sasuke couldn't believe he had just called Naruto the source of all his problems adorable again. Sasuke sighed. That was the second time today he had called Naruto adorable. He was only 9. Why did he have so many conflicting emotions? He was too young to be dealing with all of them. Now that you've arrived, perhaps we can talk about what's really important, the future. Fugaku spoke dryly, breaking up Itachi and Naruto's little love fest. Yes, perhaps we should. Minato seconded. He smiled in relief as he saw Itachi back away from his baby. Very well then, I think it's obvious that Itachi and Naruto are a good match for each other. And I would love nothing more than for this wedding to happen already so we can be done with this all, but Fugaku glanced pointedly at Naruto's small form. Even dressed in his silk common kimono, Naruto was still very much a child. Naruto is much too young for marriage and the duties it entails. It saddens me greatly to say this, because I didn't want my son to be 20 when he gave us an heir. But I think it'll be in everyone's best interest if we wait 5 years so that Naruto can mature a bit more. Thank you, Minato sighed gratefully. He had come to the Uchiha clan thinking that Naruto would be a child bride. He was grateful that the Uchiha king had not forced his son into that at such a young age. It had been his greatest fear. But darling, in 5 years Itachi will be 20, you said. I know what I said, Mikoto. Fugaku shouted back, cutting his wife off, but look at that child and tell me honestly, do you think he's physically and mentally ready for marriage? Mikoto looked at Naruto's chubby cheeks and large blue eyes. Even while he just sat there, he looked like a child. Mikoto wilted. Her red lips dragged down into a sad frown. No, she replied weakly. He's not ready. I am only giving you 5 years, Lord Uzumaki. My wife greatly desires an heir. You can take your son back to Whirlpool Country for those 5 years. But after they are up, I will expect you to hand Naruto over without complaint. As per the deal of the contract, during that time Naruto is to remain pure. If Naruto happens to change his mind due to some fleeting romance, the contract will become void, and you will be required by law to give the Uchiha clan Naruto as well as any future child he shall have. But of course, I don't want that to happen, since that would also mean you losing your son and war between our two clans. Fugaku explained stoically. It was as if he were taking about a prized racing horse and not about a little boy's life and the future of two clans. I completely understand, Minato said through clenched teeth. He had been against this marriage from the very beginning. The Uchiha clan were known as the Dragons of the North, but they were also known as snakes who'd slither underneath you and poison you in a blink of an eye by all who hated them. They were a clan that only cared about their own strength, and Minato was certain that Fugaku had ulterior motives for this marriage. He had thought so ever since he had read the letter Fugaku had sent him, where he had expressed his desire to join their two clans, but only on the condition that Naruto marry Itachi. He was sure Fugaku was getting something out of this, but he couldn't quite pinpoint what it was just yet. Minato should have never let Kushina talk him into this, but Naruto had wanted it, and that was the only thing that kept him from attacking the graying Uchiha king at this moment. Very well then, I believe we are done here. I believe we are. After that, Sasuke's father had left. He was a man of very little patience and much less words. He had no time for goodbyes. I guess we'll be leaving today. Kushina said sadly. Her silver kimono shined as she slowly stood up. Mikoto, it was an honor to meet you, Kushina said somberly. Mikoto rose up from her seated position and shuffled over so she could hug Kushina. As well as you, my dear new friend, I will never forget this red hair of yours. Kushina laughed shyly. Nor will I forget your humble hospitality. I will see you in 5 years' time. Lord Uzumaki, it was a pleasure to meet you as well. Please take good care of Naru-chan, he's precious to us. Minato sighed at this but nodded. Sasuke, come say goodbye. Mikoto ordered. Sasuke quickly scrambled up. He bowed to Lord and Lady Uzumaki and wished them a safe journey. He also reluctantly said goodbye to the she-beast, Karin, who gave him a viciously tight hug which took the breath out of Sasuke's lungs. She was trying to kill him, he was sure of it. All that was left was for him to say goodbye to Naruto. Sasuke looked back over to the tea table where Naruto and Itachi were still seated silently talking to each other. Sasuke didn't have to understand what they were saying. It was clear that Itachi was trying to cheer Naruto up, who was silently crying. He watched as Naruto sniffled. His bottom lip trembled slightly as he tried to hold back his tears. Itachi whispered something to Naruto, then gently wiped his tears away. Itachi rubbed Naruto's pink cheeks, then brought Naruto's hand up and laid a single kiss on it. It was too intimate for Sasuke to handle. He had never seen that look in his brother's eyes before. It was like Naruto was actually his brother's possession, and he owned all of Naruto's entirety. Sasuke blushed. He didn't know his brother was capable of being so dominant. Okay, that's enough, Minato said quickly as he scooped Naruto up and away from Itachi's hold. We need to leave before the sun rises any higher. You're right, those carriages can get awfully humid, Mikoto said sadly. I'll escort you guys down to the entrance. As they walked to the entrance, Sasuke chose to stay behind and watch everyone. He mostly wanted to look at Naruto. The way his little tabi-covered feet shuffled across the floor as he walked as close as he possibly could next to Itachi was adorable and also annoying. And the way Itachi hovered closely to Naruto as if he'd be ready to catch Naruto should he happen to fall was also adorable and annoying. They finally arrived at the palace entrance where the carriages were waiting. Sasuke was internally battling with himself if he should or shouldn't say goodbye to Naruto. If he did, what would he say? And if he didn't, would Naruto think he hated him? His chance was quickly winding away. Either he'd tell Naruto bye or he wouldn't. At the end, Sasuke's conscience won out. He shyly tapped Naruto on the shoulder. He almost lost his nerve when Naruto turned around and looked at him with those big blue eyes of his, but Sasuke told himself to be strong. I know you don't understand, but I just wanted to say sorry about what happened yesterday. I didn't mean any of it. I was childish and jealous of you taking my brother away, but now I'm trying to get over it. I should have never yelled at you. Sasuke bowed. He hoped someday that Naruto would be able to understand his apology. He rose and meekly met Naruto's gaze. Sasuke all but melted. Naruto was looking at him with the most heartwarming expression. I forgive you, Sasuke-san. After what you did for me, I will always forgive you. Naruto smiled warmly, then tiptoed and gave Sasuke a hug. You will grow into a worthy alpha. I hope whoever you choose knows how lucky they are to have you. Sasuke was frozen in place. Naruto's small body and his felt so right, so warm and pleasing, like he had just woken up from a long nap and was finally well rested. That instinct was now fluttering inside him like a million butterflies trying to escape out of him. In that moment, Sasuke swore he'd make Naruto his. No matter what he had to do, Naruto would be his. 5 years later. Sasuke hit the wooden plank with the back of his palm. The thick slab of wood shattered into a burst of flames as he sent a blast of fire through it. A substitution jutsu. Come on, you're much better than that. Sasuke smirked. He stepped back and surveyed around the seemingly empty dojo. He closed his eyes and listened to the sounds all around him. A fly buzzing around, the steady autumn wind blowing through the wind chimes outside, a stray cat padding around the tall grassy bushes, the splashing sound of frogs jumping around in the pond. Whoosh. Sasuke's eyes shot open. He put both his palms up, and in the blink of an eye, several small red flames ignited at the tip of each of his fingertips. You're right, I am much better than that. His opponent appeared in front of him in a flurry of ravens. Sasuke quickly activated his Sharingan. If his opponent finished materializing, he'd activate his Mangekyo, and it'd be game over for Sasuke. He sent a blast of fire from his pointer finger at one of the ravens flying by his opponent's head. The fire caused the bird to fly in the direction the fire had come from so it could attack its source and protect its master. Its master, who was still materializing, was shocked by this and looked to see where his bird had flown off. Sasuke quickly grabbed the bird and brought it up so that it was partially covering his face. His opponent's eyes followed and fell right into Sasuke's trap. Sasuke's hand ignited into a burning ball of fire, effectively killing the raven. As the bird withered to ashes, Sasuke locked his eyes with his opponent who had been looking where the bird had just been. Without the barrier of the raven, Sasuke could look into his opponent's eyes. It was exactly what he had wanted to happen. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, trapping his opponent in a genjutsu. Sasuke smiled triumphantly. He had won. Very good, little brother. Sasuke's opponent, Itachi Uchiha, hummed in approval as he easily broke Sasuke's genjutsu. You used my own ravens against me. Very tricky. It took you only a minute this time to trap me. Father will be pleased to hear that you're improving. Ha, that was more like 50 seconds. Sasuke chuckled. His eyes bled back to black as he walked over to stand next to his brother. It's been too easy lately. Are you sick? Have you been taking it easy on me? Sasuke prodded. Only 4 short weeks ago, it had taken him a whole 5 minutes to trap his brother in a genjutsu. Now it was less than a minute. It was too good to be true. He trained every day, but rapid progress like this was just odd. Sorry, I have a lot on my mind. Itachi ran his hand through his hair. His usual low ponytail was coming undone due to the intense sparring he and Sasuke had partaken in earlier. He was only wearing a pair of loose training pants, his pale, sweaty chest laid bare, displaying the smooth skin for all to see. I've been thinking a lot. I can't concentrate. Itachi admitted. About what? Sasuke asked curiously. He was a bit frustrated that his recent improvement was due to Itachi not fighting at full potential and not because he was getting better. He had an intuition that that was the reason the whole time, though, so he'd get over it. It's not like you to let outside concerns affect your fighting. It's strange. You're right, it usually does take a lot for something to distract me. Itachi sighed, but this, it's... Spit it out already for Kaguya's sake, brother. Sasuke yelled exasperatedly. He had never seen his brother so flustered. Whatever it was that had been bothering his brother must have been huge. It's father, Itachi finally revealed. He informed me last week that my betrothed will be arriving in a month's time. Sasuke froze. A lump formed in his throat and his mouth went dry. A month. This was the last thing he expected to hear today when he had woken up this morning. He knew Naruto would be returning sometime this year since the 5 years' time that his father had given the Uzumakis was up, but still, he hadn't expected Naruto to come so soon. Sasuke's hands suddenly felt sweaty. Naruto is coming. Sasuke managed to get out from around the lump in his throat. Itachi nodded his head yes. Sasuke's heart began to race. A month. For the past 5 years, he had secretly thought of only Naruto. His love for the blonde had grown stronger with each passing year. No one knew of his silent obsession, so Itachi couldn't have known why Sasuke suddenly looked so nervous. You look ill, brother. Itachi palmed his brother's forehead to check for a fever. You don't feel hot? Don't tell me you're sick at the thought of Naruto coming, aren't you? Itachi laughed. The stress melted off of his face as he clasped his brother's shoulder in a friendly manner. You were so young when he last came. You hadn't even gone through your change yet, and you still hated him. I can still recall how I had to make you promise to be nice to him. Itachi's face suddenly turned serious. But you're older now. Would it be safe for me to assume that your childish dislike for my betrothed will stay a thing of the past? Of course, brother. I'll treat him as if he were my own betrothed. Perhaps you should aim a little higher. The way you treat Sakura is a bit. Of course, I meant it figuratively. Naruto isn't Sakura. Sasuke said the harsh truth through gritted teeth. And Sakura is no longer my betrothed, but my wife. Very well, then. Itachi smiled softly. I just want Naruto to feel at home here. I want him to feel like we are all his family. Of course you do. I completely understand. Thank you, little brother. Itachi looked off out to the open dojo doors and at the trees bristling in the wind. I would never tell father this, but I'm nervous. 5 years ago, he told me that my marriage to Naruto was purely for the purpose of having an heir. He said it was strictly business, and that I shouldn't invest any emotional bonds into it, but I fell in love. I'm in love with Naruto. Sasuke said nothing. He had suspected Itachi's true feelings ever since he saw the face his brother had made when he first laid eyes on Naruto, like he was looking at the shining sun rising over the mountains. He loved his brother too much to say anything about his own true feelings. He had kept his love for Naruto a secret for so long that if he said something now it'd ruin everything. Asterisk. Naruto-chan is coming. Mikoto Uchiha announced giddily. She was seated in a plush velvet chair, sipping her favorite mint tea from a silver china cup in one of her most favorite terrums in the entire palace. Her long black hair fell loose over her thin shoulders and billowed about her face as a maid fanned her. She was wearing a simple red night slip with a black night robe. It was almost noon, but Mikoto had never been a morning person. Getting ready so early in the day was pointless, and she took every opportunity she could to put off dressing into the multi-layered kimonos that she was required to wear, especially when her husband was out of town. Her attire was plain, but to a commoner's eye, she looked every bit the queen that she was. Her thin fingers were weighed down by a multitude of beautiful ruby and diamond rings, and her neck was adorned with a golden necklace, but even without all of the priceless jewelry, the 3 red dots on her forehead proclaimed her queen status loud and clear to all who looked upon her. "Yes, I know. Itachi told me earlier this morning during our spar." Sasuke retorted passively. He trained his face into a neutral expression. It was taking every single ounce of his willpower to remain calm. Itachi had just barely told him the news of Naruto's upcoming arrival when his mother had sent a maid for him with orders to meet her in the Dragon Terrome in the east wing of the palace. His mother's lips quirked into a scowl. Sasuke hated when she did that. It meant only one thing: a lecture was coming. "Sasuke," Mikoto began in a warning tone, "I know you've never been fond of Naruto, but you're older now. I expect you to be nice to Naruto-chan this time around." "Of course I will, mother." His mother had no idea how easy it'd be for him to be nice to Naruto. If anything, Sasuke was worried about being too nice. "I didn't summon you here just to bark orders at you." Mikoto's eyes softened. She ran her hand through her son's black hair, a habit that she had had ever since Sasuke was a child. Her little boy was no longer a child. He was a man. His strong set jaw, his fine features that screamed Uchiha blood, and his dominating aura that he emitted just by sitting there looking at her, all pleased Mikoto immensely. He had turned into the strong dominant that she had always desired him to be. Everything she had wished for her youngest son had come true except. "When will you give me a grandchild? It's already been 3 years since you've married Sakura." Mikoto chastised. "I thought I'd be a grandmother by now. With Itachi's marriage being postponed, I thought you'd give me a grandchild immediately after your marriage to Sakura since you knew how much I wanted one." "I know, mother, it's just..." Sasuke scowled. What could he tell his mother? That he didn't love Sakura, that he couldn't stand her, that the mere sound of Sakura's voice alone made him want to tear her throat out? No, he couldn't say any of that. "It's hard, it just hasn't happened yet." "Are you at least trying?" Mikoto demanded without the tiniest bit of modesty. Submissives weren't supposed to ask about Yule intercourse so openly, but Mikoto was not your typical submissive. "Of course I am." Sasuke lied. Though he knew his mother wouldn't buy it, nearly everyone knew of his dislike for his wife. Even the whores living in the dirtiest slums knew. Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno had a completely loveless marriage. Sakura Haruno hadn't even gained the Uchiha last name yet, which could only be bestowed upon her by her husband when he felt she had earned to be an Uchiha. She was still a Haruno. It was a clear sign that her husband wasn't fond of her. "I'm not the only one who wants you to impregnate Sakura," Mikoto chided her youngest son. "Your father does as well." The treaty with the Haruno clan is still new and therefore sensitive. They only agreed to the peace treaty your father offered them under the conditions that you accepted a marriage bid from Sakura, and that you impregnate her and name your child the heir to the Haruno clan. I don't want to sound like your father, but it is your duty to look out for the well-being of our clan, and by not impregnating Sakura or giving her our last name, you're failing at your duty. "I know all of this, mother," Sasuke bellowed. He was exhausted of hearing his father constantly telling him to do his duty for the clan. He not only heard it from his father, but from all of the council as well. They all sounded like parrots, saying the same thing over and over again, and now his mother had joined them too. Sasuke had had enough. "But I don't want my firstborn child to be the future ruler of such a weak clan like the Harunos." The truth of Sasuke's reluctance to impregnate Sakura finally came out. "Itachi's firstborn will become the future king of our clan." "I'm sorry, sweetie, but since you are younger than Itachi, your child will have no choice but to be the heir of his mother's clan. And since its mother will be Sakura, it will be the Haruno clan that they rule over. I wish you could have picked your own wife, but you know how your father is. He does everything for the sake of our clan. This is the lot you've drawn in life, and you need to fulfill your princely duties. We all have to sacrifice sometimes, darling." "But..." "Enough, Sasuke." Mikoto's lips hardened into a thin line. "I want Sakura pregnant by the time Naruto-chan arrives. Do I make myself clear?" Yes, Sasuke was weak to his mother's authority. No matter how dominant someone was, they always carried a weak spot for only 2 submissives, their mothers and their lovers. Good. Mikoto smiled sweetly. Don't look so gloomy, darling. Sakura is a beautiful girl. She will give you beautiful children. But they'll be weak. Sasuke yelled, his hands clenched into a fist. There was only one submissive strong enough to carry his children, and that was Naruto. Sasuke wanted to scream this to his mother, but he couldn't because Naruto belonged to Itachi. That's fine. It's as you said, they'll be ruling over the Haruno clan. One does not need to be strong to do that. Mikoto said calmly, her eyes dimmed as she looked upon her son's face. If there ever were a visual representation of a man drowning, it would be her son. He looked as if he was on the brink of suffocation, and the only lifeline Mikoto could offer him was a sad smile. She picked up her golden chalice and drank the sweet wine inside of it. The tingling aftereffect of the wine instantly calmed her tremendous guilt. Her son would just have to learn how to swim. After Sasuke left the harem, he decided to go back to his sleeping chambers. Maybe he could sleep a little and forget all about his mother. Yes, some sleep would be perfect, Sasuke thought to himself. If he slept, then hopefully Kaguya would bless him with dreams of Naruto. With this newly formulated plan in mind, Sasuke stalked out of his parents' palace and mounted onto the black horse he had rode there that morning. He rode away to his own palace with the lull of sleep and Naruto's blue eyes on his mind. Sakura Haruno paced around her room. Her waist-length pink hair swung behind her as she turned. Where is that wretched midwife? Sakura growled angrily to herself. She didn't have much time. She was doing this behind her husband's back. She jolted when a dull knock sounded at the door. She threw herself onto the bed and feigned a sleepy expression. Come in, she announced in a raspy voice. The door slid open and in walked a hunchbacked elder woman. Finally, Sakura snarled as she dropped her act. You're 10 minutes late. I should have your feet cut off for your tardiness. I'm sorry, princess. My feet are swollen. It's difficult for an old woman like me to move quickly. The woman explained fearfully. Shut up, I didn't ask for an excuse. Sakura sat up and lifted her nightdress. Now get over here and examine me before my husband gets back. Yes, princess. The old woman bowed, then limped over to the bed to attend to her master's wife. Sakura Haruno was one of the most coveted princesses in Fire Country simply because of her rare beauty. Her pink hair and jade-green eyes were physical traits that screamed royalty. The day she was born, everyone knew that she was too good to stay within the Haruno clan. She was born for more. She was raised with this mentality, and when she turned 14, her father gave her the glorious news that their bid to marry into the Uchiha clan had been accepted. She had not only been accepted into the Uchiha clan, but she had been promised to one of the most royal Uchihas of them all, the young prince and second in line for the Uchiha throne, Sasuke Uchiha. Sure, her father had had to declare war just to get the Uchihas to accept her marriage bid, but Sakura didn't care. She had no interest about her clan's rivalry with the Uchihas, or that her people would have been slaughtered if the war actually went through. It was her dream to become an Uchiha, and now she was one. Sakura had been married to Sasuke for 3 glorious years. She was living a life of luxury. She had been a princess back in her clan, so she was already accustomed to living the good life, but the Uchiha's wealth was on a whole other level. The palace that her mother-in-law had gifted her, and Sasuke as a marriage present, was so big it made her parents' palace look like a commoner's hovel. A luxurious life wasn't the only good thing that Sakura had gained by becoming an Uchiha. She had also gained the highly coveted Sasuke Uchiha. The rivalry between the Haruno clan and the Uchiha clan meant that Sakura never got to see a single Uchiha in her life, but she had managed to get a glimpse of the clan her family hated only once, at a mandatory ball thrown by the emperor. Sasuke had been at the ball along with all the other clans in Fire Country. His pale skin and midnight black eyes and hair had instantly attracted her. He was so different from all the dominants in her clan, whom all had variations of dark pink and muddy brown hair. During the duration of the entire ball, Sakura watched Sasuke, and not once did he smile. It was instant love. She wanted nothing more than to make the sullen boy smile, and now, as his betrothed, she'd be able to do just that. Only one day into their marriage, Sakura realized that her simple hope of making Sasuke smile would probably never come true. It had been obvious when Sakura walked down the aisle, and Sasuke didn't even look at her, that he had zero interest. It had surprised Sakura because she had had many suitors tell her that she was the most beautiful submissive in the whole world. She was like a sakura petal, delicate and lovely. But her beauty had failed to impress Sasuke. On their wedding night, Sakura had thought that Sasuke would be pleased to take her virginity, but he hadn't cared a single bit. It had been 3 years now, and Sasuke was still as impassive as ever. Even when they made love, Sasuke looked uninterested. He was rough and never looked her in the eyes. Sasuke wouldn't even grant her permission to have his name. But all of that would be a thing of the past because now she knew how to fix it. She was convinced that if she gave Sasuke a son, he'd love her just like a husband should. It was a known truth that dominance held a special kind of love for the mother of their children, and Sakura was going to get it. Sakura sat amongst her canopy-style bed. The open double window let in the chilly autumn air. It gently whirled her long, pink hair around her pale face. She lay on her back. Her head was propped up against a mountain of silk pillows. Her green eyes were intently focused on the small, elderly woman below her who was quietly applying pressure to her bared stomach. The atmosphere was tense, as it always was during situations like these. The woman's hand moved up against her rib cage, then back down to the area right below her belly button, where her womb was located. A green aura began to emit from the woman's hand. It grew brighter and brighter and brighter, and then in a blink of an eye, the light was gone. Sakura clasped her hands in a silent prayer when the elderly woman pulled her hand away. The next words the woman spoke could be life-changing. She silently prayed to Kaguya to give her the answer she so desperately wanted, the answer she craved more than anything else in the world, the answer that would make Sasuke-kun love her. "I'm sorry, princess, but you're not pregnant." The old woman announced anticlimactically. There was a tint of anger in her gravely voice. It was expected. She was, after all, an Uchiha. Just like everyone else in the clan, she had been hoping that the princess would finally add to the royal family by birthing a pure-blooded baby. "Oh," was all Sakura could say. There was nothing else she could say that would properly sum up how disappointed she felt. She had been given this diagnosis so many times before that each time she heard it, it became less surprising. It was like she was numb to the words. Sakura had been trying to get pregnant for a whole year, and every time it was the same negative. "Would you like me to inform His Majesty?" The old woman questioned. Sakura snapped her green eyes at the woman. She reached forward and forcibly pulled the woman closer. "If you so much as speak a word of this to him or anyone else, I'll have your tongue cut out and your eyes gouged out. You got that?" The old woman nodded fervently. Her frail frame shook in fear at the coldness of the princess's threat. "I won't say a word, princess." "Good, now get out of my sight before my husband comes." The old woman scrambled to her feet and ran out the door. "Tormenting people again, are we, Sakura?" A deep voice chided from the doorway. Sasuke stepped out of the shadows he had been hiding in. He had come to his chambers to sleep. He had thought Sakura would be in her powder room, getting ready for the day, but instead he had walked in to see Sakura grabbing a poor old woman by the neck. Sakura's violent behavior didn't even surprise Sasuke. She was submissive only in name. She liked to act delicate and pure, but Sasuke had seen through her act a month into the marriage when she had assaulted a maid who had brushed her hair too roughly while attending to her. "Sasuke-kun, I didn't know you were home. Your mother told me that you'd be out sparring with Itachi-san all morning." Sakura clambered off the bed so she could stand next to her husband. "If I had known you'd be back so soon, I would have had that dumb midwife come earlier." Sakura pouted. The way her painted pink lips pouted out in an attempt to appear cute was excruciatingly fake. It disgusted him. "We ended our match early. I beat my brother quicker than usual," Sasuke explained as he tried to stave off the irritation bubbling inside of him. He wanted Sakura out of his sleeping chambers so he could sleep. "Oh, that's wonderful news." Sakura jumped up and hugged her husband. She inhaled the intoxicating scent on Sasuke's neck. Just smelling it made her legs tremble. Every dominant gave off an aroma, and Sasuke's was her absolute favorite. "Get off of me." Sasuke barked as he pried Sakura's arms off of him. He could smell her arousal, and it was sickening. But Sasuke-kun, I just received some bad news. I'm not pregnant. I need you to console me," Sakura cried. "Stop your blubbering." Sasuke rolled his eyes at Sakura's over-dramatic antics. "Sasuke-kun, did you forget the treaty conditions? You have to get me pregnant. Remember, it's been 3 years already." "Stop hollering." Sasuke pinched the bridge of his nose. He was really annoyed now. He was itching to rip Sakura's lips off so she could shut the hell up. "I am aware of the treaty conditions. I understand my duty." How could Sasuke forget when everybody kept reminding him? "Then let's try right now. I can feel that tonight will be a lucky one." Sakura snaked her arms around Sasuke's waist and pulled him against her body. She looked up into his eyes and smiled mischievously. "Come on, Sasuke-kun. I can see you're irritated. Release all of your irritation inside of me." Sasuke hated Sakura, but she had a point. He was frustrated, and rough with her would make him forget about how unhappy he was. Plus, his mother had instructed him to get Sakura pregnant. At least this way he could tell her that he had tried. "I thought I told you not to speak." Sasuke yelled. He groaned in pleasure as he grabbed a handful of Sakura's pink hair and yanked it harshly. Sakura moaned and Sasuke closed his eyes, imagining a pretty blonde with scarred cheeks and blue eyes in Sakura's place. With every thrust Sasuke envisioned Naruto, and when he came he imagined it was Naruto's sweet heat cocooning him that he was releasing into. "You were so passionate, Sasuke-kun," Sakura gushed. "I can feel it happening already." Her thin arms hugged her naked stomach. She tightened her legs so that the cum inside of her wouldn't run out. "I'll get pregnant, I just know it." Sasuke tuned Sakura's ramblings out. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. Hours later, when he awoke, he smiled happily. He had dreamed of his angel just like he had hoped he would. At least in his dreams he could be happy. 1 week later, Sakura found out she was pregnant. Everyone celebrated the glorious news. Commoners and royalty alike sang songs of joy, and Sakura's parents even came all the way from their clan territory just to celebrate their daughter's pregnancy. It was a joyous occasion. Everyone was happy except Sasuke. He was a drowning man, now weighed down by anchors. Surviving was becoming harder and harder, and Sasuke really wanted to just give in to the weight of the anchors and never resurface again, but the thought of Naruto kept him going. In 3 weeks, Naruto would be arriving, and Sasuke would find a way to survive until then just so he could see his love again. 1 month later, Fugaku Uchiha stood at the entryway of his palace. His family, along with other notable and reputable royals, stood alongside him as they waited for the Uzumaki royal family to arrive. The king of the Uchiha clan scowled as another minute ticked by. "They're late like always." Fugaku hollered. It was bad enough that it was windy outside, and now he had to wait out here in the cold like some freezing peasant. "They're a whole week late, and even now when they said they'll be here today, they still managed to be late. Unbelievable." "Hush, darling, they'll be here any second, I just know it." Mikoto rubbed her husband's arm in a calming manner. "You fought wars that lasted longer, you can wait this out." Fugaku said nothing, but his hardened expression softened a fraction of a bit. Sasuke paid his parents no mind. For the first time in a long time, nothing anyone said or did could irritate him because in a few moments, the love of his life, the person who had filled his dreams for the past 5 years, would come back into his life again. The wait had been a long one, and many times Sasuke felt like the weight of the anchors was too much and he'd drown, but miraculously he had made it. Not even Sakura's vice-like grip on his hand could sour Sasuke's jovial mood. 5 years ago, when he had waited for Naruto just like this, he had been angry, jealous, and a child. He had been just like his father, yelling about how late the Uzumakis were, but now Sasuke was brimming with happiness. "Stop smiling like that, you're creeping me out." Gaara leaned over and whispered to Sasuke, who was smiling from ear to ear. "Shut up." Sasuke retorted, still smiling as he kept his eyes straight ahead on the road. Gaara raised a non-existent eyebrow and straightened back up. He had never seen Sasuke this happy before. It was suspicious. He decided to not dwell on it and trained his eyes ahead of him. The rolling sound of wood hitting gravel caught everyone's attention. The next second, 3 large white carriages rolled down the Gravely Road and then pulled up in front of them. Sasuke noted the Uzumaki clan flags pinned to the carriages. Just seeing them sent a jolt of excitement through his body. He couldn't believe Naruto was actually seated inside one of the carriages. He wanted to run up to each carriage and throw each door open until he spotted the blonde. Once he found him, Sasuke would carry Naruto and whisk him away into the forest where they could love each other and not have to be restricted by betrothals and marriages. It was a dream Sasuke loved to think about. Sasuke held his breath when the 2 first carriage doors opened. He sighed in disappointment when a slew of guards, butlers, and maids clambered out. Sasuke's excitement reignited when he realized that this meant that Naruto must be in the last carriage. 2 guards went up to the carriage door. Another guard pulled a horn latch to his belt out and blew it. The crowd fell silent. They all knew what that melody being blasted from the horn meant. The royal family was about to make their entrance. Sasuke couldn't be more excited if he tried. He briefly wondered if his hands were sweaty enough for Sakura to notice, but then decided that he didn't care. He had waited 5 years for this moment. Not even his annoying wife could damper his mood. Finally, the guards opened the carriage doors and out stepped the large figure of Karin Uzumaki. Just as Sasuke had thought, she had developed into a strong dominant. She was muscular but still petite. Her red hair was even shorter than last time. It was almost all completely gone from the back, and all she had left was long bangs falling in her face. A crown still adorned her head, but this one was much larger than the one she had been wearing 5 years ago. She was wearing a dark blue haori that had the Uzumaki clan symbol emblazoned on her back, and her hakama were white. Even as she stood there, Sasuke could still recall that night long ago in the pond when her muscles had rippled in the moonlight. Her muscles had tripled since then, but so had his, so she no longer scared him as she had once used to. Kushina stepped out of the carriage next. Her long red hair was all tied up into a large braided bun. Her bun was encased in a golden hair comb. There were dozens of diamonds going around it, and in the center of the hair comb, a single sapphire lay. It was the size of a peach pit. The mere size of it stunned Sasuke. The cost of the sapphire was probably something only a king's wife could afford. Kushina's kimono was a watery gray color and bound at the waist by a light blue obi. Her kimono had painted white cranes and blue wind patterns swirling at the bottom of it. As always, she looked like a walking piece of art. So extraordinary to behold that it was hard to think that she was real. Everyone bowed as the Uzumaki clan's queen stood there smiling. She bowed slightly at the crowd. Her tight obi still disallowed her from bowing properly. The carriage door was opened again. Sasuke held his breath. There was a high chance Naruto could come out next since his father was the king, and therefore respectfully should come out last, but then again Naruto was the betrothed, and everyone knew that the betrothed wasn't allowed to come out until the very end when everyone else had come out. The carriage door swung open and a head of blonde hair peeked out. Naruto, Sasuke thought hopefully. The blonde hair was immediately followed by a pair of wide shoulders. No, not Naruto. Sasuke frowned, but then quickly forced a respectful expression on his face as Minato Uzumaki, the king of the Uzumaki clan, stepped out of the carriage. "I want to thank you all for being here to accept our arrival," Minato announced. He oozed power by just standing there. Sasuke had once overheard his father telling a story to a general commander about how Minato Uzumaki was known as the Yellow Flash of the West due to his extraordinary ability to teleport. He was like a flash of lightning. Once you saw him, you never knew where he'd strike next. "It is a pleasure," Fugaku replied while smiling falsely. A blind man would have been able to see just how much real pleasure Fugaku had written all over his face. He had been kept waiting, and he was not happy about it one bit. "We are all here for a special reason, the binding of two clans through marriage. I have brought you my son just as you ordered. In return, I trust that you will treat him well. Of course, now let's get this over with and get inside. It's too cold for all this pointless talking." Minato's expression hardened at Fugaku's rudeness but nodded in approval. He opened the carriage door himself and stepped aside. "May I present to you my son, Naruto Uzumaki?" Naruto stepped out of the carriage and Sasuke all but lost his breath. For the second time in his life, the sheer beauty of Naruto Uzumaki overwhelmed Sasuke Uchiha. The 5 years had definitely been kind on Naruto. For one, he no longer had the chubby cheeks of a child. They were thinned out but still had the slight blush to them and the 3 scars on each side that Sasuke loved. Naruto had grown a bit taller too. His big blue eyes, which never looked up from the ground, were outlined with a light purple shadow color, and his long blonde hair was half tied up into a bun. There was a single white lotus with hundreds of shimmering diamonds hung on silk strings pinned in the center of the bun, and the diamonds sparkled as Naruto bowed in greeting. They were so mesmerizing. Everything about Naruto was mesmerizing. Even his kimono was beautiful. It was a blue, almost white color. The obi that bound Naruto's small waist was black, and the tassel around it was gold. On Naruto's back, the Uzumaki clan symbol was emblazoned, just like on Karin's Hayori. The sleeves of Naruto's kimono were long and hung heavily at his sides. Only those coming of age were allowed to wear kimonos with such long sleeves. The long length of the sleeves symbolized innocence. But it wasn't needed because the white collar of Naruto's under kimono was pure white, which meant purity. It was untouched. Seeing the white collar pleased Sasuke greatly. Naruto raised his head but kept his eyes on the ground. His scarred cheeks turned dark red. It was then that Sasuke realized what had happened. As he was ogling Naruto's beauty, Itachi had walked up to Naruto and bowed lowly at his feet. It was the same bow he had done when he first met Naruto. Sasuke tried to not let it anger him. Itachi's extremely low bow signified respect for the one who would give him children in the future. Meaning, Itachi was thanking Naruto in advance for accepting his seed inside him. Naruto's purity would be gone and the pure white color of his collar would turn into black. The mere thought of it angered Sasuke. When he was a child, he had sworn to make Naruto his, but as he matured and grew older, he realized what that statement entailed. Naruto already belonged to Itachi. Making Naruto's his would mean betraying the brother he loved. Sasuke tried to stave off his anger by reminding himself of this. It wasn't working, though. Thinking of Naruto's virginity being taken by anyone else but him was making Sasuke furious. "Oh, Sasuke-kun," Sakura yelped in pain. You're holding my hand too tightly. Sasuke ignored his wife and continued to look at Itachi and Naruto. Itachi had risen off the ground and was now helping Naruto step down from the carriage. Sasuke was so angry that he actually wanted to hurt something, preferably Sakura. Let's go inside, the winds are getting stronger. Itachi commented as he watched the luminous stringed diamonds hanging in Naruto's hair blow harshly in the wind. I don't want my betrothed out in this kid of weather. Everyone found Itachi's concern for Naruto sweet. They eagerly followed Itachi and Naruto into the Uchiha palace. Sasuke forced a smile on his face and followed along. He wanted nothing more than to snatch Naruto away, but he'd have to wait. There was a time and place for everything, and unfortunately right now was neither the time nor the place to fulfill his deepest wishes. Not when his dear brother was here to see everything. Sasuke would have a moment alone with Naruto. The only question was when, and would he be able to wait that long? Asterisk. I'm thrilled with how beautiful Naru-chan is. He was beautiful as a child, but now, he's stunning. Mikoto raved. The royal families were all gathered in a spacious harem. The walls were red and had gold flecks splattered all over it. There was various hung weapons hanging on the walls that had been used in battle by Fugaku and other previous Uchiha kings. On the back wall, there was a large scroll that depicted a portrait of Fugaku, and underneath it the words "The King of the Dragons" was printed. All of the royal families were sat around a long lacquer tea table. There was a marble fireplace burning up the cold in the room, which allowed many to discard their heavy coats. Mikoto was sat at the head of the table next to her husband. Minato and Kushina sat right next to her. The table was big enough for the parents of both the betrotheds to sit at its head. Thank you, Naruto's beauty is due to Kushina, Minato said proudly. Even after all these years, Minato's favoritism for his son was still apparent. His hair looks like spun gold, Yoshino Nara, the queen of the Nara clan, commented. Her brown eyes were ogling Naruto, who hadn't said a word since he arrived. Sasuke briefly wondered if Naruto still didn't understand their language. A small part of him hoped that Naruto hadn't learned it, because over the years, he had learned Naruto's intricate language. He had had to learn it secretly so he wouldn't draw any suspicion to himself. But now, he was itching to speak to Naruto to show him all that he had learned. Sasuke wanted to apologize to Naruto about all that had happened in the past, properly in his language so that Naruto could understand. He'd do it when he was finally able to have a moment alone with Naruto. It's such a vivid color, his royal blood must run strong. Hayashi Hyuga said stiffly. The jealousy practically oozed from his stern face. He glared at his daughter, Hinata. I hadn't thought that there was anyone better suited for Itachi than my daughter, but it seems I was mistaken. Naruto is exquisite. I wish I had gotten him for my own son. Yes, as do I, father, Naruto's lovelier than any submissive I've ever come across. It would have pleased me to have him. Neji Hyuga, Hayashi's son and crowned heir of the Hyuga clan, said in agreement. His white, pupil-less eyes roved over Naruto's body as if he were undressing him. Neji's shameless interest in Naruto instantly set Sasuke's dominant inner beast into a silent rage. He was about to growl at Neji, but then he abruptly heard a loud snarl come from across the table. Sasuke looked up, startled by the sound. It had been Itachi. His eyes were blood red and spinning madly as the three Tomo inside spun in a circular motion. Sasuke had never seen his brother act like this before. Itachi was calm about everything. He was a genius who didn't have to try much. Even when they sparred, Itachi always had a calm look on his face. So to see him now ready to attack and with such a wild expression on his face flabbergasted Sasuke. You will never have him. Itachi hissed. Neji hissed back. His white eyes narrowed as veins appeared on his temples. I never said I would touch him, just that I wanted to, but who cares? I've been itching to fight you ever since you turned down my sister's marriage bid. The room fell silent as the two dominants rose to their feet. There were much stronger dominants in the tea room who could have put an end to Itachi and Neji's oncoming fight. Minato alone could have stopped them, but it was well known that it was extremely rude to stop a dominant from fighting if they were battling in defense of their submissive. Neji had made a pass at Naruto, and therefore Itachi had every right to rip Neji to shreds. No one moved. All of their eyes were glued on the two dominants. The fight would most likely leave one of the two heirs gravely wounded, but they could do anything about it. Naruto suddenly stood up. After looking at the ground all night long, Naruto finally raised his eyes. The guests gasped. His bright blue eyes were filled with tears. Sasuke wanted to get up and comfort Naruto, but he couldn't. He sat and watched to see what Itachi would do. His brother looked far beyond the point of return. His eyes were spinning wildly and were boring dead straight into Neji's white eyes. Naruto raised his hand. His long kimono sleeves swung back as he settled his hand on Itachi's upper arm. "Itachi-san, please look at me," Naruto murmured, stunning everyone in the Terum again. They had all thought that Naruto didn't know how to speak their language. Sasuke's hope that Naruto hadn't learned their language was obliterated. Naruto didn't even have a trace of an accent anymore. The sound of Naruto's distressed voice calling out managed to get through Itachi's anger. His wild eyes snapped down to Naruto. "Please calm down, I don't want you to fight Neji-san." Naruto boldly looked up and then tiptoed. No one expected what came next. Naruto had placed a kiss on Itachi's cheek. The kiss proved to be the exact thing Itachi had needed to calm down. His eyes faded back to black and his usual calm expression returned. "I only have eyes for Itachi-san, so please don't mind what others say," Naruto said shyly. Sasuke withheld the urge to growl. Naruto's love proclamation to Itachi cut deep. Did Naruto really love Itachi then? As the thought entered Sasuke's mind, he suddenly saw Naruto's blue eyes look at him. He blinked to make sure he hadn't imagined it. He opened his eyes and was surprised to see that Naruto really was looking at him. "I've loved you since I was a child. Another dominance flattery is nothing to me but useless words." Naruto's eyes remained on Sasuke, then flickered away quickly. Sasuke glanced around to see if anyone else had seen what had just happened. No, everyone was still focused on Itachi and Neji. It was so peculiar. For a moment there, it had actually felt like Naruto had been talking to him. "Your words please me." Itachi grabbed Naruto's hand and kissed it. "You're right, this is childish, but—" Itachi turned back to Neji. "The next time you make a pass at my betrothed, I'll give you the fight you've been itching to have, Hyuga." Neji growled in return, but still sat back down. If he attacked Itachi right now, he'd look bad, which would in turn make his clan look bad. He couldn't have such a thing happen when practically every royal family in Fire Country was here. The Hyuga name was a reputable one. He couldn't ruin it while all eyes were on him. "I think this is the perfect time to separate this party." Mikoto glanced at her husband for approval. The Uchiha king nodded for his wife to go on. Mikoto cleared her throat, then proceeded. "Itachi, take your betrothed and friends to the Rose Terum." Sasuke raised his eyebrow at the word friends. The heirs of the royal clans were hardly considered friends. If anything, they were acquaintances whose only common interest was that they were of noble birth. The only one in the whole lot who could have been considered a friend was Gaara, and that was only because he was family. "Sasuke, you go too, and remember what we talked about." Mikoto's eyes hardened. "Take good care of Naruto-chan." "Of course, mother." Sasuke bowed. She had no reason to worry. It was physically impossible for Sasuke to treat Naruto harshly like he had when he was a child. He wanted to kiss Naruto, not glare at him. Itachi stood up. "Please follow me to the Terum." Itachi took Naruto's hand and helped him stand up. "The rest of you please join me as well." Shortly after, the heirs and children of the kings and queens got up and followed Itachi out of the Dragon Tea Room and down the hall to the Rose One. Even Neji reluctantly followed the Uchiha heir, but only because he didn't want his sister to go alone, but mostly because he wanted to see more of the pretty blonde submissive with the stunning blue eyes. "Hi, I'm Yukari Tamura, but you can call me Ten-Ten." Ten-Ten's hair was tied up into two large buns. There was white tassels coming out from the both of them. She wore a white kimono that was outlined in orange and had small, mousy features. "It's so nice to meet you." Naruto bowed at the girl. "It's nice to meet you too, Ten-Ten-chan." "I'm Kiba Inuzuka, you might have heard me. The Inuzuka clan has quite the reputation." Kiba was wearing a dark brown haori with matching hakama. His hair was spiky and short, and he had two inverted red triangles tattooed on his tan cheeks. His features were plain, but his confident grin made up for it tenfold. "The only reputation you have is of being a dog." A blonde girl with icy blue eyes quipped. Her kimono was a deep purple color, and she had an array of colorful flowers in her tied-up hair. "I'm Ino Yamanaka. My father is the king of the Yamanaka clan. Have you heard of it? I'm sure you have." Ino said pompously. Naruto shook his head no. He blushed in embarrassment. Ino's confident expression turned sour. "Ha, your clan isn't as well known as you thought." Kiba taunted. "Shut your mouth, dog breath. You should bow to a dominant of my quality, you stupid, submissive bitch." Kiba roared. "I'll only submit to dominants who are above me. You are clearly far below me." Ino's ice blue eyes looked up pointedly at Kiba's head of brown hair and then down to his unremarkable brown eyes. Kiba's face turned bright red in anger. You should learn to submit to every dominant you come across. That's your duty as a submissive. Enough of this, Itachi announced sharply. You're both scaring my betrothed. Sorry, Itachi-san. Kiba and Ino both apologized. Itachi was the highest dominant other than Fugaku and the emperor within Fire Country. The Uchiha clan was a clan that their parents had taught them to never anger or cross. If there was one clan you didn't want as an enemy, it was the Uchihas. We've met before, but I don't know if you remember me. I'm Gaara. I'm Itachi and Sasuke's cousin as well as the heir to the Suna clan in Sand Country. Gaara said to break the tense atmosphere. Oh, Gaara-san. Naruto bowed. I do remember you. I remember you because when I first saw you, I thought you were a submissive like me, but then later on that day I saw the half-moon mark on your palm. I had never seen a dominant like you, so I never forgot you. Naruto smiled brightly. The room grew silent. Everyone knew how sensitive Gaara was about his short stature. Anything that had to do with Gaara's childhood disease was a subject no one was allowed to talk about. I had a disease as a child that stunted my growth. Gaara's teal eyes looked murderous. I've been cursed with a small body that makes others think that I'm a submissive, but Gaara smiled. The killer look in his eyes vanished as if it had never even been there. I've gotten over it. I'm still an heir to a throne that many covet. An unsatisfactory appearance is the least of my worries. The tension melted. Everyone sighed in relief. I am sorry about the disease. You still look like capable dominant. Naruto's eyes watered slightly. Don't cry for me, Naruto. Gaara laughed. I don't want such a pretty submissive to shed tears for me. Sorry, Naruto murmured as he wiped at the corner of his eyes. I must say that you're much more beautiful than when you came last time. I didn't think it was possible, but you've somehow managed it. Your hair is so lovely, I'm sure my father would love it if I had it. Naruto cherry cheeks bloomed to an even redder color than before. It's even lighter than Ino's. Someone's finally beat you at your own game. There's someone in Fire Country with hair more beautiful than yours. Shut up, you stupid mutt. Ino screeched. Jealousy was burning in her icy eyes as she glared at Naruto's mane of luscious blonde hair. Forgive me for asking if this is a dumb question, but why is my blonde hair such an important issue? Naruto asked. Confusion was written all over his face. I've never gotten so many compliments on it as I have had here. In the North and South, we believe that the lighter your hair is, the more royal your blood is. That's why everyone keeps complimenting you on it. Your hair is the color of the sun. There is no brighter color. Gaara explained. Oh, Naruto touched his hair, suddenly feeling self-conscious. But Itachi-san and Sasuke-kun and the Hyugas, their hair is as black as the night sky. Naruto glanced around the room. There were many royals in here that didn't have light hair. How were they royals then? There is an exception to this rule. Any clan that possesses ocular powers such as the Uchihas or the Hyugas don't need light hair to proclaim their royal status. Their eyes do that for them. If you don't have light hair or ocular powers, you can still be a royal, but others will consider you to be a second-rate royal. Oh, Naruto answered. He now understood the heated interaction between Kiba and Ino. Your hair really is lovely. I can't wait to comb it for you. We'll be like sisters. Oh, I'm Sakura, by the way. I'm Sasuke-kun's wife. Naruto's eyes widened. You're Sasuke-kun's wife. Yes, Sakura smiled widely. He will also be the father of my child in a few months. Sakura's hand was resting against her stomach to show everyone that there was a baby growing inside of her. It wasn't necessary because everyone could smell the sweet change in her scent that meant she was with child. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? You look pale. Tenten abruptly said, I'm fine, sorry. Naruto said hurriedly. Itachi palmed Naruto's cheeks to check for a fever. You're not warm. Do you want to lie down? You must be tired from the long journey here. Itachi's smooth voice murmured so that only Naruto could hear. I'm fine, thank you for worrying, Itachi-san. Naruto replied quietly. So, how are you liking it here, Naruto-chan? Tenten asked. Are things here completely different than in Whirlpool Country? I've never been there. Fire Country is very different than Whirlpool Country. I haven't been here long. Even when I visited as a child, I wasn't here longer than a few days. But yes, Fire Country is very different than my home. Naruto answered honestly. His blue eyes glanced at Sakura, then looked away. Very, very different. How so? A lazy-eyed boy with spiky brown hair and a ponytail asked. The emblem on his shirt signified that he was from the Nara clan. He had been dozing off all afternoon long. It had begun to seem all the boy could do was eat and sleep. I'm Shikamaru, by the way. It's good to see you again. I was here last time as a boy when you came too. but I don't have unique features like Gara-san, so I doubt you remember me. I don't remember, I'm sorry. Naruto said sheepishly. It's fine, I didn't expect you to. Shikamaru replied unbothered. So what's so different here than in Fire Country? Well, the language is different. Obviously, what else? Sakura rolled her eyes. Anything really surprise you yet? The rules for submissives are very different here. Naruto admitted. How so? Sakura prodded. Less freedom. Naruto didn't look at the pink-haired submissive when he answered. No one noticed. How do submissives in Whirlpool have more freedom than us? Sakura snapped. You're being too vague. It's just different, everything is completely different. Naruto said flatly. He stared ahead as if seeing right past Sakura. What do you mean? Sakura yelled, angry by Naruto's inability to elaborate. Itachi shot her a warning look. She gulped. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell. What I meant was how are submissive different than us? Submissives in Whirlpool aren't even called submissives. We're called omegas and dominants are called alphas. Since clans in Whirlpool are descendants of animals, we go by animal rules. Submissives can live virtuous lives, but only if they're not claimed by an alpha. Naruto explained. His apprehension to fully look at Sakura was becoming more noticeable now. Sasuke found it strange. He had no idea what Naruto had against Sakura. That's so interesting. Tenten marveled. So you have mates and things like that. Yes, our husbands are our mates, and a wedding ceremony is called a mating. So that means you're my mate, Sasuke-kun. Sakura gushed. Actually, no, you're not. Naruto said tightly. His eyes were finally focused on Sakura. The only way you can call someone your mate is if you both have a mating mark on your neck. Submissives who don't have the mark are considered unclaimed. In fact, if you went to Whirlpool County, as you are right now, pregnant and unmarked, people would think that you're a common whore who opened her legs for an unworthy alpha. Sasuke snorted. The heirs laughed along at Sakura's shocked expression. Well, we aren't in Whirlpool Country, so it doesn't matter. Sakura's green eyes narrowed. Sasuke-kun is still mine, and I am his. You're only his because your father threatened war if he didn't accept your marriage bid. Ino snipped. What does marking mean? Tenten interrupted. She wasn't going to let Ino and Sakura get into another argument. The last time it had lasted a solid 20 minutes, and she could still remember the headache it had induced. It's when a dominant bites your neck hard enough to leave a mark, Naruto blushed. It tells all other dominants that you belong to someone. So, since you're still unmarked, other men can still bed you, right? Neji leered. If you want, I can show you a good time before Itachi marks you. Neji didn't even get to finish his sentence. Sasuke was on him before his next word could come out. Sasuke's body had moved on its own. He was so angry by Neji's crude words that he had punched Neji square in the jaw. Brother, are you okay? The usually silent, wide-eyed princes, Hinata Hyuga kneeled to the ground and propped her brother's head up on her knees. She hadn't spoken a word all night. It was easy to forget that she was even there. I'm fine, Neji spat. He got up from the ground and glared at the younger Uchiha. You. This is between me and you, Neji. Itachi stepped in between his brother and Neji. I told you the next time you made a pass at Naruto, I'd give you the fight you've been itching to have. Fine, let's settle this like men. Neji glared. I challenge you to a duel. I accept, Itachi replied stoically. I'll gladly give you the beating you've been wanting so badly. The declaration of the duel soured the jovial party mood. For the rest of the evening, the young royals sat in silence until it was time to go back home. Asterisk. The next day, the Uchiha Palace was busy teeming with preparations for the upcoming wedding. Preparing for such a large-scale wedding would take a solid month. During these days, Sasuke rarely saw Naruto. The only times he'd see him were when he visited his parents' palace for dinner. He had begun to look forward to these nights. They had begun to feel like the only good thing in his life. Being in his own home with a pregnant Sakura was tortuous. All of his annoyance faded away when he saw Naruto's beautiful face at the dinner table. It wasn't fair. He still hadn't gotten his chance to be alone with Naruto. As the days wore on, Sasuke began to think that he'd never get his moment alone with Naruto. It had left him bitter and hopeless. Sasuke's moment alone with Naruto finally came, and it had come completely by coincidence. He had been walking around his parents' palace one cold afternoon. Earlier that morning, Sakura had tried to lure him to bed with her. It had been the final straw in Sasuke's patience for the day, so he had decided to go to his parents' palace. But the problem was that he didn't want his parents to know he was there, so Sasuke had decided to go to his favorite childhood hiding spot, the North Wing Rose Garden. It was a set of completely unrelated events that had led him to the garden. So it was surprising when he arrived and the most unexpected sight greeted him. It was Naruto, lying amidst the flowers and looking up at the sky. Naruto's kimono was light yellow and his long hair was in its usual half-bun hairstyle. This time there was a crystal daisy hairpin in the center of it and 3 strings of pearls dangling from it. He looked more dazzling than the bed of flowers he was lying in. As Sasuke intently watched Naruto, he debated what to do. The love of his life was lying there all alone. This was the chance he had been praying and hoping for. But did he really want to go behind his brother's back by being alone with Naruto? Royal dominants and submissives, especially if they were unmarried, weren't allowed to be alone together. It was a taboo. Was Sasuke willing to go against both societal rules and his beloved brother just to spend some time alone with Naruto? Yes, he was. This was the chance he had been waiting for. He'd be a fool to waste it. Sasuke took a deep breath. He was going to do this. With one last exhale, he straightened up and walked up to the rose garden where Naruto was lying. "You'll get your beautiful kimono dirty if you lay out here like that," Sasuke commented out loud so he could rouse Naruto's attention. Naruto bolted upright. His wide blue eyes peered up to Sasuke's face. As soon as he recognized who had spoken, a blush flared across his cheeks. "Ah, Sasuke-kun." Naruto slowly stood up. It took a lot of effort due to the tight white obi around his waist and the high geta he had on his feet. Sasuke wanted to help Naruto up, but he knew touching Naruto would either scare him off or anger him. Since Sasuke wasn't Itachi, any touch by a dominant that wasn't Naruto's betrothed could potentially set him off, and that was the last thing Sasuke wanted. So instead, Sasuke kept his hands to himself and watched as Naruto struggled to stand. "It's nice to see you, Sasuke-kun." Naruto bowed as soon as he was on his own 2 feet. "It's rare. I don't think we've shared a moment alone since I've been here." "No, I don't think we have," Sasuke said graciously. Naruto had no idea just how much he knew they hadn't shared a moment alone. He had prayed to Kaguya for one since the day Naruto arrived. "You're always with my brother, so it wasn't possible for us to ever meet like this." "You're right, Itachi-san loves to tote me around." Naruto laughed. It was a light and melodic sound. The beautiful sound was mesmerizing. Everything about Naruto was mesmerizing, even the dangling pearls in Naruto's hair. The way they reflected the light when Naruto threw his head back to laugh was spellbinding. A moment alone is incredibly rare. "You should never be alone like this. You should have guards and your handmaiden with you at all times. If I had been another dominant without self-control, I could have easily had my way with you." Sasuke's words were hollow. He was distracted by everything that Naruto was. His mind was caught up in memorizing every single detail of Naruto's face. He hadn't physically been this close to Naruto since he was 9, and Naruto had given him a goodbye kiss on the cheek. Seeing Naruto this close and all grown up was too much. It was overwhelming how beautiful Naruto was. His eyelashes were as gold as his hair, and Sasuke found himself wondering if the hairs above Naruto's most intimate parts were the same color of gold. Sasuke wanted to throw Naruto back down onto his back and lift the multiple layers of his kimono and part his legs just to see if they were the same. "I'm happy Sasuke-kun cares so much about my safety, but I was never in any real danger." Naruto smiled, and then pointed up to the edge of the garden where a large group of apple trees was located. Sasuke looked up to where Naruto was pointing and saw a purple-haired woman dressed in an all-black combat suit crouched on a tree branch. Her amber eyes were focused intensely on Naruto, and she was holding a kunai pointed directly at Sasuke's head in her hand. He hadn't even noticed her presence. She was good. "My handmaiden Konan is also my guard. She never leaves my side." Naruto confessed somberly. "Oh, I see." Sasuke replied awkwardly. He suddenly wanted to take back all that he had said about how Naruto should have guards on him 24/7. Naruto looked so desperate for freedom, and Sasuke desperately wanted to give it to him. What had Naruto's life been like for the past 5 years? Had he been sad like this the entire time? "You look like a caged bird who wants nothing more than to fly," Sasuke observed. He panicked when he realized he said it out loud. "Not that I'm saying anything's wrong with that. I'm sorry, it's just—" "Sasuke-kun, it's fine." Naruto laughed, his eyes crinkled into 2 crescents as the giggles slipped from his pink lips. Sasuke's heart warmed up at the sight. Naruto still laughed the way he had when he was 10, carefree and full of mirth. "I'm sorry," Sasuke repeated quietly. "Don't be sorry, you're right, I'm a caged bird." Naruto's lips dropped into a frown. He looked up into the tree where Konan was still crouched in. "I'm not that weak, I wish my family realized that." Naruto sighed. Sasuke didn't know what to say. How could he relieve Naruto of this burden? An idea suddenly popped up in his mind. It was risky, but if it worked, he'd get to spend much more time with Naruto. I could escort you around the palace until the wedding if you want. Conan won't be needed if I'm with you. Naruto's cheeks turned red, but he quickly shook his head no. My parents would never allow it. I see, Sasuke replied solemnly. He had really hoped that Naruto would agree, but deep down he knew he wouldn't. Naruto was a royal unmarried submissive. He wasn't allowed to be alone with another dominant. But I have an idea of my own. Naruto shyly looked down at his hands. I'd like it if Sasuke-kun could train me, that way I could show my parents that I'm strong enough to be alone sometimes. Sasuke gaped. He hadn't been expecting Naruto to say that at all. Royal submissives training, sparring, learning combat techniques was unheard of. It wasn't necessary for them to learn because they'd be taken care of by their dominants and would never have to fight for anything in their life. A royal submissive's only duty was to please their dominants and give them heirs. That was it. So hearing that Naruto wanted to be trained was surprising, to say the least. You want me to train you? Yes, Naruto said excitedly, but I know it's unorthodox, but I really want to learn. My whole life I've been treated like a doll. In the Uzumaki clan, every royal submissive is born with a seal on his or her stomach. Because I was born with it, my parents knew I was a submissive before I turned 10 and my son Mark appeared. I didn't get the luxury of living a carefree life until I turned 10 like other submissives do. I want to train. It's not fair that Karin gets to wield a sword, but I don't get anything except for guards who will fight for me. Sasuke was moved by Naruto's speech. He hadn't known about the seal thing either. He didn't know how it felt to be treated like a submissive since he wasn't one, but he could only imagine how hard it must have been for Naruto. What Naruto was asking was tremendous. If he agreed, no one could know, and even then they risked the chance of getting caught. But Naruto was the love of his life. His happiness meant more than anything to Sasuke. He was worth the risk. Fine, I'll train you. Thank you, Sasuke-kun. Naruto grinned from ear to ear. It was dazzling and momentarily made Sasuke forget what he was going to say next. If we do this, it'll have to be kept a secret from everyone. Not even my brother can know. Do you understand the risk we are taking? I understand. Naruto's eyes twinkled. Sasuke wasn't sure why, but he got the feeling that Naruto was hiding something. He put his suspicion aside and decided to bask in Naruto's glory. The way he laughed was so childlike it made Sasuke want to laugh along too. If I learn enough, then maybe I can finally get rid of Conan. Naruto said hopefully. Sasuke flicked his eyes back up to the tree at the mention of the woman. She was still there. Conan was probably an excellent fighter, but she had made one fatal mistake. By trying to hide herself from Naruto, she had put too much distance between them. She could see Naruto perfectly, but she couldn't hear a word he or Naruto said to each other. It was perfect. This way she wouldn't have a clue about anything. Meet me here tonight after everyone falls asleep. Make sure no one follows you, and I'll give you your first lesson. Understood, Sasuke-kun. Naruto smiled, and Sasuke swore the sun shone brighter because of it. Ah, but won't your wife notice if you aren't there next to her at night? Naruto's cheerful expression vanished. He sullenly looked down. If she does, she knows not to question me. It sounds like Sasuke-kun isn't very fond of Sakura-chan. Naruto murmured. A pleased smile bloomed across Naruto's lips. Your assumption is correct. My marriage to Sakura is nothing to me. Her pregnancy has made my dislike for her grow even more. Naruto smiled brightly. Sasuke didn't understand Naruto's sudden mood changes. Sakura-chan is so beautiful. When I first saw her, I thought you'd be absolutely in love with her. I'm happy to see that Sasuke-kun hasn't changed too much. You still have that moody look on your face. I really like it. Naruto blushed. About that. Sasuke took a deep breath. He had been internally practicing this apology for the past 5 years. It was about time to finally deliver it to Naruto. He couldn't stall any longer. I want to apologize. I already said don't worry. You didn't offend me, Naruto interjected. No, not about that. Sasuke took a step closer. I want to properly apologize about what happened the last time you were here. Oh, Naruto's eyes widened. The way I acted was childish. I was jealous of you and said things that I should have never said. I regret my actions. Every day I wish that I could go back and change how things played out. I hope you'll be able to forgive me again. Naruto's eyes widened. You know, my language. Naruto smiled softly. He closed the small space between him and Sasuke and hugged him to his body. Of course I'll forgive you, Sasuke-san. I'll always forgive you. Sasuke said nothing. Even after all these years, Naruto's body against his still felt so right. It was so small and warm he wanted to protect it. This was definitely the only submissive in the world that he wanted. How could he make Naruto his? It seemed hopeless. Without his childish optimism to cloud his reasoning, he now knew that what he wanted was impossible because it already belonged to someone else. It was purely coincidental that Sasuke ran into Naruto in the garden that day, but somehow it felt like fate. Like this meeting was destined to happen long ago, and things were falling into place for something greater. Later on that night, after Sasuke was sure Sakura was asleep, he sneaked back to his parents' palace. Not out of fear of getting caught, but because he didn't want to deal with her if she was awake. It had taken him longer than usual to get to his parents' palace since he couldn't ride his horse there like he usually did, but he arrived eventually. He was a little sweaty and out of breath, but it didn't matter since he'd be training anyways. He dressed in a simple white open training haori, which was held together by a red corded belt. He also wore traditional black loose-fitting training pants and common training footwear. While Sasuke waited for Naruto to arrive in the garden, the autumn wind blew through the trees. It was cold out. He should have brought an overcoat. He hoped Naruto dressed warmly. He didn't want his love to catch a cold. 20 minutes later, Sasuke heard the steady sound of feet thumping against the ground. He quickly hid himself behind a bush and peered out to see who had come. Of course, it was Naruto. He had to make sure, though, he couldn't get caught before he even had the chance to teach Naruto anything. If it had been a guard and Naruto showed up a little later, it could have ended everything. "Sasuke-kun," Naruto called out softly. "Are you here?" Naruto's long blonde hair was tied up into a high ponytail, and there was a simple flower jade pin holding his bangs back so that they wouldn't hang in his face. Sasuke recognized the jade pin as the same one Naruto had worn on the last day he had been here 5 years ago. Naruto's body was cloaked in a ground-length overcoat and his eyes were wide and alert. Sasuke stepped out from behind the bush. "I'm right here, don't worry." "Oh," Naruto whirled around in Sasuke's direction. "I had begun to think that you hadn't come. If I had no intention of coming, I would have made sure to inform you. I wouldn't want you out here all alone." "Such a gentleman." Naruto blushed. "Of course I am. You're my brother's future submissive. You deserve to be treated with respect." "Oh, okay then." Naruto beamed. "Before we begin, I want to tell you that I'm grateful that you agreed to train me." Sasuke bowed. "It's my pleasure. I'm more than happy to train you." "So am I." Naruto's eyes remained on Sasuke for a few seconds, then he suddenly dropped his cloak, revealing his body. "Let's get started then." Sasuke's mind blanked. He heard Naruto saying words, but he couldn't focus on them because Naruto's attire was distracting. Naruto was definitely not dressed appropriately for the chilly weather. Naruto was wearing a short blue yukata. The sleeves were still long, but the length of the yukata only went up to Naruto's hips. However, that wasn't what was distracting Sasuke. It was the black shorts and thigh-high black socks that Naruto was wearing that was making Sasuke's mind short-circuit. The exposed skin of Naruto's supple thighs were displayed for his eyes to see, and Sasuke wanted nothing more than to spread them and see what lay in between. They looked so soft and untouched, they'd defiantly bruise easily if he bit them. "Sasuke-kun." Sasuke shook his head to refocus his mind back into reality. He quickly drew his eyes away from Naruto's body. "You shouldn't have worn that." "Why?" Naruto asked innocently. "I don't have any right to look at your exposed thighs. You belong to Itachi. He has to grant me permission to look upon any exposed part of your body." Naruto blushed. I didn't know that. We don't have that custom in Whirlpool Country." "It's okay, you didn't know," Sasuke said while still averting his eyes. "So what does this mean? Is our training session canceled? Because I can't go back to my sleeping chambers and sneak back out again. It'll be too dangerous." "It seems we'll have to postpone until tomorrow then." Sasuke replied. He was disappointed too. He had been looking forward to this all afternoon. But I don't want to wait until tomorrow." Naruto cried urgently. "How about I give you permission? It's my body. I give you permission to look at it, Sasuke-kun." Naruto's words were so erotic, and he didn't even know it. It was driving Sasuke insane. If Naruto had been an unclaimed submissive, he would have taken that as permission to enter their body. "No, it doesn't work like that. My brother has to be the one to grant me permission, since you'll be his submissive after the wedding." "That's not fair," Naruto whined. I have an idea." Sasuke heard fabric ripping and then silence. "Okay, you can look now, Sasuke-kun." Sasuke looked up. Naruto had ripped his overcoat and had tied the fabric around his thighs so that there were two bows tied around them. "Now you can't see anything," Naruto sang excitedly. Sasuke could still see the soft skin of Naruto's thighs protruding around the tied bows. They looked like two presents. Sasuke internally groaned. It didn't even make a difference. If anything, it made Naruto's thighs look even more enticing. "Untie them." But if I do, you won't be able to train me." "I will, don't worry. I've decided to ignore the rules. I'm already breaking so many by training you and being alone with you. One more broken rule won't hurt." "Are you sure?" Naruto questioned gently. "If it bothers Sasuke-kun too much, I can go." Naruto's golden eyebrows lifted and his pink lips jutted out into a pout, making him appear even cuter. Sasuke nodded his head. "Your thighs will be marked if you leave that material tied around them for too long. I don't want your delicate skin to be ruined because of me." Naruto blushed and quickly undid the ties. They fluttered to the ground, once again exposing Naruto's thighs. Sasuke took a deep breath. He'd have to focus extremely hard in order to focus on teaching Naruto and not on his body instead. "Okay, first I'm going to teach you the basics." Sasuke trained Naruto every night in the garden for the next 4 days. A wedding typically took a month to plan, so Sasuke had about a week and a half left until Naruto was claimed completely by Itachi and their training would end. Every time Sasuke thought about it, he wanted to take Naruto far, far away and keep him hidden for himself, but he knew he couldn't. For one, Naruto's parents would definitely find them, and for another, Sasuke couldn't betray his brother like that. He'd never intentionally hurt his brother. So, as the days passed, Sasuke cherished each night he got to spend with Naruto. He realized that Naruto was an easy person to love. He was innocent and fiercely determined to learn. Every day Sasuke's love grew stronger and stronger. It felt like at any moment it'd burst. "You're a quick learner. You've grasped the basics astonishingly fast," Sasuke said with pride. They had just finished their lesson. Naruto was reclining on the grass. His blonde hair was plaited into one long braid. The hair of his bangs hung loose and blew in the wind. Even while sweaty and breathing hard, Naruto was stunning. "Yeah," Naruto laughed nervously. "Or maybe you're just a really good sensei, Sasuke-kun." "It's not that I'm a horrible sensei. You've completely surpassed my expectations." Sasuke sat on the ground next to Naruto. "It's like you already know how to fight." "Ah, really?" Naruto's voice raised an octave. "Maybe I really am just gifted." "No, it's more than that. Are you sure you haven't trained before?" "Ah, it's getting late." Naruto abruptly stood up. "I should head back already. Sasuke-kun, thank you for teaching me again tonight. Please be here again tomorrow." Naruto bowed and then scurried off. Once again, an intuition told Sasuke that Naruto was hiding something, but just like last time, he chose to ignore it. Sasuke smiled as he watched Naruto's retreating figure. Unbeknownst to him, a pair of amber eyes also watched from a distance. The next day, Sasuke's mother had requested his presence at the Uchiha Palace. Sasuke usually only went to the palace for dinner, so his mother's early summon interested him. What was so important that she couldn't tell him during the day? When Sasuke arrived at his parents' palace, an irritating sight greeted him. Sakura. She was standing outside the palace doors with her hand resting over her belly. "I waited for your arrival, Sasuke-kun." Sakura shouted. She bounded down the steps and ran to greet her husband. Sasuke briefly wished that she had tripped on the steps and killed her and the weak baby growing inside of her. It was a violent wish to have, but one that Sasuke desperately wanted to happen. "You look so handsome today, Sasuke-kun. I missed you." Sakura gushed as she latched herself onto Sasuke's arm. They walked up the steps leading into the palace. The guards at the sides of the door bowed as the royal couple walked past them. "You should wear white more often. Although, I'm a little angry that everyone can now see your chest." Sasuke rolled his eyes. He had worn the white training shirt that he had been wearing during his spars with Naruto. He could smell Sakura's arousal as her green eyes eyed his exposed skin. "But then again, I'm happy to see your chest again after so many nights of you refusing my advances." "Stop talking." Sasuke grumbled underneath his breath. He wanted to cut Sakura's tongue out. Why did she constantly have to annoy him? As they walked, a butler approached them. The graying butler bowed and then raised his head. "Good afternoon, Your Majesty. Lady Mikoto requests your presence in her West Wing powder chambers." The butler's eyes looked at Sakura dryly. The dislike for her was clear in his wrinkled face. "She also requests that you come alone." "Very well then, you may return to your duty." "Thank you, Your Majesty." The butler bowed and then walked off. Sasuke could have kissed the man. He had been thinking of a way to get rid of Sakura, and now he didn't have to. He pried his arm out of Sakura's snake-tight grip and walked away. He didn't want to be with her any longer than he had to. "I'll be waiting for you, Sasuke-kun." Sasuke heard Sakura call loudly in a shrill voice. He stopped himself from turning around and yelling at her to shut up. Once Sasuke arrived at the golden doors of his mother's powder room, he knocked once. The guard at the door bowed at him and then opened the door. "Lady Mikoto ordered me to let you in as soon as you arrived, Your Majesty," the guard explained. Sasuke nodded and then entered his mother's powder room. The last time Sasuke had been inside one of his mother's powder rooms was when he was 10 and his pet cat had run into one. He had chased it inside and found it underneath a mountain of pillows. There was never a need for him to go inside one of his mother's powder rooms. It was the place she readied herself. Dominance had no business being inside of it. He wondered why his mother had decided on this odd location to speak with him. "Come in, sweetie," Mikoto ordered as she gestured to an open seat beside her. She was seated on a black satin love chair in front of her vanity. Her long black hair was slightly damp and her face was bare of any makeup. Her attire was beautiful, a deep red chiffon kimono that had black lace at the top. The fabric wasn't stiff like a usual kimono, but flowed like water going down a stream. The beauty of the kimono was lost, though, since it appeared to have been hastily put on. It was as if his mother had put it on herself. Sasuke sat in the chair beside his mother and reached for her hand. Now that he was closer, he could see that her eyes were rimmed red. "Have you been crying?" Sasuke asked. His mother didn't really cry much. She was a strong submissive and the queen of one of the most powerful clans in the world. She equated crying with weakness, so her tears were a rare sight. Mikoto bursted into an array of tears. It was such a troubling sight that Sasuke bolted up and hugged his mother. "What's wrong, mother?" Mikoto patted away at her tears and took a deep breath. "It's your brother." "Itachi, what about Itachi?" "It's the duel he accepted from the Hyuga heir. I keep thinking about it. I don't want him to go through with it." "That's all?" Sasuke smiled, a little relieved. The way his mother had been crying, he had thought that Itachi had up and disappeared from existence. "Mother, you shouldn't cry over that. Itachi's a genius. He could beat Neji with his hands tied behind his back." "I know that, but I just have a feeling things will go bad." Tears gathered again in Mikoto's eyes. "Kaguya's been too good to Itachi. I fear she's planning something for him. I just know it." "Mother, you sound irrational. Kaguya is a goddess who looks upon all who are good with favor. Itachi is so blessed because he is morally pure. Nothing will happen." Mikoto calmed down a bit as her son spoke. Maybe she was being a bit irrational, but she couldn't help it. She had a bad feeling that something big was going to happen. "Sasuke, would you ease my conscience by doing me the favor of trying to talk Itachi out of the duel? He's always had a soft spot for you. Please try." Sasuke nodded, "And if he refuses to call off the duel, then train with him, make sure you throw everything at him. Train until you beat some sense into that thick skull of his." "Yes, mother, understood." Sasuke bowed, then hugged his mother once more. As he walked out of the powder room, Sasuke realized something. His mother was actually a very fragile woman. The hardened exterior she wore was an armor to hide her true self. It was amazing, and it made Sasuke's love for his mother grow a little more. She was far from the mother he wished she'd be to him, but this little crack in her rock-solid exterior was nice. "Sasuke-kun, there you are," Sakura bellowed as she ran down the hall to her husband. "I've been looking all over the palace for you. Lady Mikoto told me to look for you in the East Wing, and she was right." "I'm busy right now, Sakura." Sasuke rubbed his temples. He had been looking for Itachi for the past 20 minutes. His parents' palace was so big that searching it was proving tiresome. He had no idea how he had been able to search the entire palace when he was a mere boy of 9. It seemed almost impossible now. "Doing what?" Sakura prodded. "Things." "Well, can these things wait? It's afternoon and I want to spend time with you. I want the baby to hear your voice more often so he can know who his father is the moment he comes out of me." Sasuke's ears perked up at something that Sakura had said. He had been so dumb. Afternoon Itachi trained every afternoon in the dojo. Why hadn't he thought of that first? He had wasted 20 minutes for nothing. Sasuke quickly bounded out the palace. He heard Sakura yelling behind him, but he tuned her out. He ran until he arrived at the dojo. He slid the door open and immediately spotted his brother, shirtless, sweaty, and sparring against his sensei, Rimbu. "Brother, how about you spar against me for a change and give this old man a rest already?" Sasuke teased as he walked into the dojo. Itachi stopped the kick he was about to deliver to Rimbu's arm. Sasuke, what are you doing here? I've grown accustomed to seeing you only during the evenings. It's good to see you, little brother. Itachi walked over and hugged his brother. I came to see you. Sasuke smiled. So how about a little spar? Sasuke raised his hand and ignited a small set of flames at each of his fingertips. I have a new move I've been dying to show you. Fine, I'll agree, but only to entertain Naruto. He's been watching me train every day, and I think he's grown tired of seeing me beat Rimbu. Sasuke's eyes darted around at the mention of Naruto's name. He finally spotted the love of his life sitting at the back of the dojo on a silk pillow. He was wearing a light pink kimono, and it fanned around him like a halo. His hair was all swept up into a braided coil, and there was a pearl pin in the center of it. Sakura petals dangled from the pin along with some shimmering crystals. His eyes were outlined with a rose-colored shadow, and his arms were folded elegantly in his lap. Konan, who was now dressed in the traditional clothes of a handmaiden, was sitting beside Naruto, fanning him with a large feathered fan. Sasuke had been so engrossed in finding his brother that he hadn't even realized Naruto's presence in the room. Naruto bowed when their eyes met, then smiled. It's nice to see you again, Sasuke-kun. I look forward to seeing you later on tonight as well. Naruto's eyes sparkled mischievously at the double meaning of his words. As well as you? Sasuke bowed in return. A smile was dancing at the edge of his lips, but he held it back. Naruto was just too damn cute for his own good. Well then, let's get this fight started. Rimbu, you may leave, Itachi ordered. The old man nodded, then hobbled out of the dojo. Now then, Itachi raised his hand in a fighting stance. Come at me, Sasuke. Sasuke's hands instantly bursted into flames. He threw a portion of the fire at Itachi's hands to stop him from igniting his own flames. It failed. Itachi's fists were now both engulfed in matching blue flames. Itachi's fighting style was unique. He didn't use powerful red flames like Sasuke did. He kept his flame low and only increased the heat before he attacked. Sasuke personally couldn't fight like that. He didn't have that type of self-control, but he admired the way his brother was able to do it. Is that the best you can do, little brother? The last time it took you a minute to beat me. If you don't hurry up and attack me seriously, then you won't be able to beat your record. Itachi smirked as his blue flames burned a little brighter. That was all the goading Sasuke needed. He added more chakra into his flames and ran towards Itachi. He threw a quick succession of fireballs at Itachi's face as he ran, but Itachi dodged every single one. Sasuke crouched down and aimed for Itachi's feet. It had worked. Itachi's legs were now on fire. The flame engulfed Itachi's entire body, and then suddenly Itachi's body dissolved. A single raven appeared in his place, a shadow clone or genjutsu. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and peered around the room. If this was a genjutsu, then when had Itachi trapped him in it? And if this wasn't a genjutsu, then where was Itachi hiding? Before Sasuke could even blink his eyes, a burning heat engulfed his back. He quickly tore his Haori off and watched as it withered to ashes on the ground. Sneaky move, big brother. Sasuke laughed. There was nothing quite like the exhilarating excitement of sparring against Itachi. He always had to stay 2 steps ahead. If this had been a genjutsu, you would have come out by now, so I'm guessing we're still in reality. Sasuke's red eyes scanned the dojo. Now where are you hiding? A flame exploded at the side of Sasuke's face. He ducked down and looked in the direction the flame had come from. It was a grave mistake. As soon as he turned his head, he was trapped in Itachi's genjutsu. Sasuke cursed. He should have looked down, but instead he had looked up right into his brother's eyes. He focused his mind. He had to find a way to break this genjutsu. Sasuke tried to focus his mind, but then suddenly a delicious aroma wafted through the air. Was this part of the genjutsu? As the intoxicating smell grew stronger and stronger, Sasuke wanted to find its source. The edges of the room grew blurry, and then the room disappeared altogether. He was back in reality. Did you just break my genjutsu? Itachi asked, astonished. How? I don't know. Sasuke replied honestly. I smelled the most sweetest aroma I've ever come across, and my mind jolted awake. Sasuke sniffed the air in the room, and his mouth instantly watered. The sweet smell hadn't been part of Itachi's genjutsu, but had actually been real. Maybe this fragrant odor was so pleasing to you it broke through your unconscious mind and brought you back to reality. Itachi summarized. The amazement was still evident on his face. What was it, though? Sasuke sniffed around the room and followed the scent's trail. To his utter amazement, the smell had been coming from Naruto. Was this odor? Naruto? No way. Sasuke immediately got hard. This delicious scent was the aroma of Naruto's arousal. He had been so used to Sakura's vile scent he hadn't realized that a submissive arousal could smell so heavenly. Please forgive my master. He's been sitting here watching his alpha fight shirtless all afternoon. It's finally gotten to him. Conan explained plainly, as if Naruto emitting an arousing scent was nothing to worry about. Sasuke looked down at Naruto. His head was bowed so that Sasuke couldn't see his face properly. Was this the first time it had happened? Itachi had said Naruto watched him practice every day, and he knew that his brother always practiced shirtless. Was Naruto really this affected by Itachi? Sasuke wanted to hit the wall. The dominant beast inside of him was furious that another dominant Yuli turned on Naruto. So it was Naruto emitting the scent. Itachi said proudly. He kneeled down and grabbed Naruto's chin so that their eyes met. In a week's time I'll satisfy that craving for you, so don't be embarrassed, little one. Itachi kissed Naruto's hand, then rose back up. He sniffed the air and basked in the scent of his future submissive. Sasuke couldn't stand much more. He needed to get out of here before he did something dumb. Naruto's scent was so alluring that he couldn't even focus on his brother's comment about betting Naruto in the future. He was about to excuse himself when he remembered the promise he had made to his mother earlier. "Can I speak with you in private, brother?" Sasuke asked breathlessly. The air was suffocating him. It was making him want to part Naruto's pretty legs and mount him, but he couldn't leave. He had to speak with Itachi on behalf of his mother. "Of course, it's about time for Naruto to leave anyways." Sasuke thanked the stars for blessing him with such good fortune. With Naruto gone, he'd be able to calm his lust-frenzied mind. "Lord Itachi is right. It's time for me to ready my master for dinner." Conan rose to her feet and helped Naruto stand up. "I'll see you tonight at dinner, Itachi-san." Naruto bowed. "I'm sorry about what happened. I interrupted your practice for being so shameful." "No, never apologize for something like that. I'm happy that you desire me so strongly." Naruto's cheeks flared red. His blue eyes flickered to Sasuke. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Naruto's eyes had lingered on his chest. "I'll see you at dinner, Sasuke-kun. It was truly a pleasure to see you." "It was a blessing to see you as well. Your presence in the dojo was uplifting." Sasuke bowed. A drip of sweat trickled off of his forehead and landed on the extra fabric gathered at the bottom of Naruto's kimono. Naruto gasped. Sasuke could swear that the delicious scent suddenly grew even stronger. "We should get going now, master," Conan advised urgently. Naruto nodded and excused himself. He left the dojo, taking the intoxicating scent of his arousal with him. "So, what is it you wanted to tell me, little brother?" Itachi asked as soon as they were alone. "I'm not going to stall its mother. She's worried sick about your duel with Neji. She cried to me saying that she had a bad feeling about it. She's asked me to ask you to not go through with it." "This again?" Itachi laughed. "She worries too much. Those powders she wears on her face have turned her crazy." "There's nothing to fear, little brother. Tell mother that I'm going through with this duel and that when I win it, I'll prove to her she was worried over nothing." "But what if she's right?" Sasuke didn't like to think about it, but Neji was pretty strong himself. The Byakugan was a strong ocular jutsu that had bested many great warriors in the past, including some Uchiha ones. His brother was a genius, but there was always a chance that Neji could win. "There's nothing to worry about. I've mastered the Sharingan and the Mangekyo, and unless that Hyuga cheats, I will be victorious." Sasuke smiled. Maybe his mother was worrying over nothing. Itachi was the strongest warrior he knew. Neji was strong, but he wasn't as strong as a genius like his brother. "I'll inform mother of your decision then." "Good, tell her everything happens for a reason, and that whatever happens during the duel was destined long before Neji challenged me." Sasuke nodded. His brother's words reignited his uneasy feeling, but he said nothing about it. His brother was unbeatable. There was nothing to worry about. Just like his brother had promised years ago, nothing would change. "Your form is incorrect," Sasuke said as he stood beside Naruto. He raised Naruto's arm higher, then stepped back. They were in their usual training spot. It was late into the night, and despite the events of earlier that afternoon, Naruto had still requested to train. Sasuke shivered as a sharp gust of wind blew through the clearing. Since his practice shirt had been burnt during his spar against Itachi a few hours earlier, he no longer had a shirt to wear. He'd have a new one bought for him tomorrow morning. "Like this?" Naruto asked shyly. He raised his arm and drew his shoulders back. "Yes, that's perfect," Sasuke murmured as he looked at the way Naruto's back arched in the position he was in. He came back to reality and tore his eyes away. It was getting harder and harder to focus. The memory of Naruto's delicious scent from earlier was making his mind conjure up perverse thoughts. "Okay, since you now got all the forms down, I'm going to teach you something new." Naruto smiled brightly. "What is it?" It's a technique you can use to pin down an enemy during hand-to-hand combat. Sasuke moved to stand behind Naruto. I'm going to touch you, is that okay? Naruto nodded. Sasuke wounded his arms around Naruto's waist and pulled him close. The trick is to get behind the enemy and trap them before they can even move. Once you do, you kick them in the back of the knee so that their knees can buckle. After that, they'll topple to the ground, and you'll have the upper hand since you'll be on top of them. Sasuke explained. I'll show you. Sasuke applied small pressure to the back of Naruto's knees, then watched as the blonde crumpled to the ground. He let his body fall with Naruto's but didn't land on top of him. He turned their bodies so that Naruto landed on top of him instead. Oh! Naruto blushed and looked down. Sasuke suddenly realized that their position was a bit suggestive. He attempted to separate himself from Naruto, but then the familiar sweet scent of Naruto's arousal assaulted his nose. He looked down in surprise and saw that Naruto was hiding his face behind both of his hands. Sasuke was astonished by what was happening. Naruto was aroused right now, and it wasn't because of Itachi, was it because of him? Naruto, are you aroused right now? Sasuke sniffed the sweet-smelling air. He unconsciously pulled Naruto down closer to him. I'm sorry, please don't tell Itachi-san. Naruto whimpered. He leaned his head down and rested it against the space between Sasuke's shoulder and neck. Sasuke stiffened when Naruto sniffed at his neck, a sign that he found Sasuke's scent attractive. You just smell so good, and when you're shirtless, I can't help myself. Please don't tell Itachi-san. Naruto buried his face in Sasuke's neck. The way Naruto was shyly scenting him made Sasuke's dominant urges surge. Naruto's aroma was so inviting, it was clear Naruto wanted him. Sasuke was positive that if he asked Naruto, he would have willingly submitted himself to him. The arousal was blinding. Sasuke's inner beast was screaming at him to dominate Naruto. Everything was escalating so fast, and then the atmosphere shattered. Glowing amber eyes came running out from the shadows of the trees. It was Konan, and an army of white paper butterflies swirled around her as she ran. Step away from my master! Konan yelled. She raised her hand, and a dozen butterflies flew towards Sasuke's face. Sasuke jumped up and ignited his hand into flames. Just as he was about to throw a fireball at the paper butterflies, a swirling ball of blue air destroyed them. Sasuke's eyes darted around to locate who had thrown the powerful jutsu. His eyes landed on the shocking image of Naruto crouching in front of him. There was a swirling ball of wind in Naruto's palm, just like the one that had obliterated the paper butterflies. Leave him alone, Konan. I was the one who tempted him first. Naruto yelled, Move aside, master. This wasn't part of the plan. Konan raised her hand and resurrected the broken paper butterflies off of the ground and redirected them back at Sasuke. Sasuke was still reeling from the fact that Naruto had just performed a jutsu. And not just any ordinary jutsu, he had performed one that Sasuke had never seen before. Why had Naruto told him he wanted to learn how to fight when it was clear that Naruto knew plenty? Konan, please, I don't want to fight you. Naruto's eyes were focused intently on Konan's advancing body. The way he was crouched down was almost animalistic. Sasuke had never seen a submissive act like this before. I won't let you hurt him. I'd rather die than let you harm him. Sasuke came to his senses. A submissive was pledging their life to protect him. It should have been the other way around. Stand down, Naruto, I'll fight her. No, Sasuke-kun. She's just angry, I'll calm her down. Naruto formed another ball of the strange blue swirl in his palm and threw it at the butterflies. Konan, this is an order. Cease your attack or else I'll releases you from being my handmaiden. All of the remaining paper butterflies suddenly fell to the floor. Konan dropped to her knees and lowered her head. Forgive me, master. Konan bowed lowly. When I saw that your innocence was in danger, I couldn't stand by and watch like you ordered me to. I reacted out of fear. I forgive you, now rise. Naruto hugged Konan. Her amber eyes were filled with tears. The way Naruto was acting wasn't like someone who hated his or her handmaiden or someone who wanted to get rid of them. What's going on here? Sasuke tried to piece everything together, but he couldn't make sense of anything. Naruto had asked Konan to watch him. Naruto knew how to fight. And apparently Konan and Naruto had some sort of plan together. He had feeling that Naruto was hiding something. Was this it? Naruto sighed. He slowly turned to face Sasuke. I ordered Konan to watch us spar. She's been present every single night you've trained me. Why did you hide this from me? Because I love you, isn't it obvious? Naruto cried. I made up this whole lie because I needed a reason to be closer to you. I've loved you ever since you saved me from my sister that night in the pond. I couldn't forget about you, Even after all these years, I still have the night robe you gave me that night at the pond. I know I should love Itachi-san, but I can't because my heart has always been yours, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke was truly at a loss for words. How hadn't he noticed Naruto's feelings yet? I've been in love with you all these years too. Sasuke confessed out loud for the first time. It felt like a weight had been lifted off of his shoulders and he could finally breathe again. You love me. Naruto's eyes watered. Yes. Sasuke growled. He scooped Naruto up into his arms and hugged him to his body. He fully relished in the euphoric feeling that overcame him. Naruto's body against his made Sasuke feel whole, like he had finally found his missing piece. Sasuke hitched Naruto up higher and kissed the delicate skin near the corner of his lips. No matter how bad he wanted to kiss Naruto's plump lips, he couldn't. That right was reserved for his brother. Kiss me. Naruto pleaded silently when he noticed Sasuke's reluctance to get near his lips. Sasuke's willpower wavered. Naruto looked extremely needy. Please, Naruto begged, his eyes lowered submissively. I want it. Sasuke completely gave in. Naruto's lips hovered closer to his. The heat radiating off of them drew him in. He closed the space between them and gently kissed Naruto's petal-soft lips. Naruto's cheeks were burning red and Sasuke could hear Naruto quickly losing his breath. He didn't ever want the kiss to end after years of yearning for them. Naruto's lips were finally his. That's enough, Master. It's already late. We need to get back before the guards come and check for you like last time. Conan advised sternly. Naruto reluctantly broke the kiss. He nodded and hopped down from Sasuke's arms. She's right, Naruto panted. Besides, I don't think I can go on much longer. I haven't kissed anyone before. My body is reacting weird. Naruto shyly looked down. The smell of his arousal was still fragrant in the air. It had gotten noticeably stronger the second their lips touched. I'm sorry to end things like this, Sasuke-kun. You can just call me Sasuke. Sasuke grabbed Naruto's hand and held it up to his face. His dominant beast was howling in delight over the fact that a submissive of such high quality like Naruto had just given him his first kiss. And it's fine. We have tomorrow night. Okay, Naruto blushed. I'll see you tomorrow then, Sasuke. Sasuke chuckled. I'll look forward to it, Naruto. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share, and do comments.